we arrive at the next part of episode 43. And it goes without saying, it goes well without saying, that the first instance I know that this is going to be awesome, that I'm going to love this, and I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this, is the fact that this Chad's face is on the screen. Ultimate Giga Chad Samuel is about to be spoken about. Just saying. Just saying. Aside from all that, it is officially well, it's technically Saturday for everybody else. It's Friday for me, which means I get to work on SCP, and I get to finalize the Lotara Sarin script. Prophet says, "Hello, boss. Would you like to discuss with the chat about our very intelligent conversations?" Of course I would. Hold on a second. Let me read off to everybody the enlightened conversation that we have. Prepare yourself, you guys. Prepare yourself, because this is very, very highly intelligent conversation material right here, okay? I'm just going to show you, okay? I'll just show you now. 1 second. Let me see. Let's see. Yes. This is what I put up with. This is what I have going on right now when it comes time for a live stream. Okay? This is what happens when I get ready for a live stream. This is what happens. Why? Why? I'm just saying, I just want to know why. This is what I get. Alright, guys. Who's ready to go? Excellent chat if you're ready to go. This is going to be a long stream, my guys. This is going to be a long stream. Okay? So, no. That is not encouragement. That was not encouragement. Alright, here we go. Thanks, Prophet, you ridiculous bastard. Here we go. Who's ready for the Giga Chad? Let's go.
He said sheepishly,
"We do not."
Oop.
"Duty, nothing
Who else but Prophet? Doom, 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 doom.
more," were his succinct words, and after another pause to see if he would add any more, Lazarus nodded somewhat awkwardly and coughed. "All right. Well, if anyone has any ideas as to how we can stave off the Republic's next assault, I'm all ears," he said sheepishly.
"We do not,"
said a rasp from the darkest corner of the room. The others turned to regard the deep, raspy voice, and, to Lazarus's deep surprise, it was coming from the man he thought dead.
The man, the
"Sam,
myth, the legend.
Don't," the woman at his side began to say, but he shook his head at her before she could finish, straightening a little, but not rising.
Duty calls, heck. Not my place to be silent when decisions are being made,"
he said.
"And who are you? How did you even manage to be allowed in here?"
asked Commissar Leros, and in response the man gave her a tombstone smile.
"My name is Samuel Weiler, Inquisitor of the Zektek Triumvirate,"
the large man claimed, reaching into his coat and shakily withdrawing something on a chain. An inquisitorial rosette. Aloysius Cinder went down to one knee right away, his helmet authenticating the validity of the rosette in seconds, and Commissar Leros snapped a new salute his way, her posture stiffening. Lazarus could not but marvel, wondering what he should do in his state. But before he could make any gesture, the man waved their postures away with his free hand.
"Rise, relax. We stand on the cusp of defeat, so there's little time for the pleasantries of ceremony,"
he said, forcing the words out through a paling face, clearly not holding up from his injuries very well.
I'll break it down easy for everyone. The Basilica is lost.
True.
The planet is lost.
True.
We need to organize some way to evacuate. I doubt more and more that the self-proclaimed War Master ever intended to hold this place properly when he set forces down here. Thought at first that perhaps he was playing some grander strategy. And
He was playing Stellaris. Yes. Does he know the Space Marines have landed?
maybe he is. But if so, it involves the sacrifice of our position here, and potentially all of our personnel, to whatever that cause is.
The Inquisitor began to explain. Lazarus felt a fire and tightness spike through his chest and guts. He grit his teeth tightly, barely holding himself back from an outburst as the words sank in. "That's unacceptable," he said into the pause. "Lord Makarion can't just toss us away like that. It's... Lazarus began to sputter.
It's borderline heretical.
The Inquisitor said, nodding his head.
Scott, I don't know who
Trust
that
me,
is.
Satan, Lazarus. I know. I have no intention of dying here and letting everyone here die with me.
Yes.
Besides, whatever he wishes to achieve, it clearly involves replacing a good amount of our own loyalist special forces. The intentional loss of Kriegers, Calambians, and Cadians, to say nothing of the rest stationed on this planet.
The huge man explained,
True.
shaking his head with a trembling sigh.
The only purpose I can deduce for that madness being committed intentionally is to clear the upper echelons to make room for something else. Likely to make room for forces that are more loyal to him than to other principles of the Imperial.
He finished. Lazarus could barely countenance what the Inquisitor was proposing. Lord Tyrannus Makarion II, the Lord General that Davik Thune had chosen to lead the Guard, who had followed them into the galaxy, was a highly respected tactical genius. How could he choose to do all of this? To abandon his own forces on a doomed posting just to clear the board? That
Perturabo. He went to the school of Perturabo.
is outrageous, Inquisitor. If this is true, if he really chose to do this, then I'll... Lazarus began to growl, but a raised hand from the large wounded man halted the Imperial Saint.
You will do your duty and no more.
Ordered the voice of the Emperor, eyes intense despite the agony clearly reflected there.
You will leave the rest to the Inquisition. If there is justice to be had, it shall be rendered by us, not by you, not by the Ecclesiarchy.
Yes.
Am I understood, Saint Lazarus?
The Inquisitor asserted, forcing a resigned nod from Lazarus, who reminded himself to clamp down on his opinion.
Yes.
This man was no ecclesiarch or Lord General.
Nope.
He was a full-blown Inquisitor. And clearly, the various elevations that Lazarus had been subject to within the last 24 hours meant next to nothing to the likes of him.
Right.
The large man's face relaxed visibly, or at least as much as he could manage to relax it, given the massive wound in his chest.
Good. Good. If we all understand each other, that brings me to the good news. Any second now.
Samuel began
Minotaurs.
to explain, blood flecking his lips as he did. In that moment, the doors opened once more, but it was not Sister Leandra alone who re-entered. Behind her, two enormous forms, not large enough to be ogrins, but far too large to be mere men, stepped inside the austere chamber. The whir of mechanical servos and the smell of holy anointing oils followed them inside.
Here they are.
Lenses glowing, enormous bodies striding forward with a surety that proclaimed victory. Lazarus felt his eyes widen, and he suddenly wondered what he should do, even more so now than with the Inquisitor. Sure, he was now some kind of saint, but did not even saints bow? before angels? They spoke before he could decide.
You do not need to concern yourself with the defense of this place any longer. We are evacuating you and every other citizen of the Imperium from this basilica,
said the transhuman warrior to her right, a tall and ornate space marine lord. The Inquisitor sighed and laid back, and the other marine opposite the one who had spoken turned his head towards Samuel right away. The armor of the first marine was like a walking shrine, amethyst in color, but caked in silver and gold finery.
The boys are
His
here.
rank, his accomplishments, and those of his chapter were written thickly over every inch of his ceramite-encased body. Lazarus felt his breath nearly being sucked out of his lungs as a realization struck him. This angel of death was a captain. And not just any Astartes captain. He was clearly the first captain of the chapter. His pedigree proclaimed by the sigils on his pauldron. He was a leader and lord of the first company of his brothers. Necessarily a living legend of war, a master of death, even among the Emperor's own angels.
Yes.
The saint saw that the other two had made to kneel, both the Commissar and the Tempestor Prime lowering themselves to the floor as the massive men entered, and Lazarus haphazardly went to do the same, kept from falling over by the supportive hand of Leandra as she came to stand beside him and steady his posture. But she did not kneel, and did not permit him to either, merely bowing her head in acknowledgement as she held
What? I expect nothing less from us. Yeah.
the saint in place.
We are honored to receive you and the Emperor's aid now in our darkest hour,
She said, speaking for both of them. Lazarus could not but nod and keep a brave face as the other, the warrior who was not a captain, moved past the first. He was dressed in white-powered armor and strode forward to loom over the Inquisitor, examining the slumped man with red lenses and reaching out. The woman beside him tensed, but a thick fist wrapped around her forearm and stopped her from moving.
Relax, Heck. I need them to get me fixed up.
The
Yep,
Inquisitor
apothecary.
assured as he held her back.
You are Samuel Weiler.
The white-clad Marine said, not
And you get a gold star.
truly asking, though the wounded man nodded his head weakly.
You are badly injured. You will need a heart transplant. What is your chapter of origin?
The apothecary asked as he gently punched forward with his extensive medical gauntlet, pointed probes entering the Inquisitor's chest and feeding information directly back into the brain of the Marine.
Yep.
No. Get me an augmentative replacement, Skywatch variant. Transplants won't.
Samuel Weiler began to explain.
Understood. The flesh is weak. I shall have a replacement of steel ready in a number of minutes. What else do you need?
The Marine said, cutting him off.
Damn.
Right. Clots in my chest. Organs are not doing well. Sifting a lot of burnt blood. 2 ribs are severed near my spine. Need to brace them.
The Inquisitor continued to report, the Marine tending to him, nodding and priming several chemical treatments.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the first Marine approached Lazarus, his shadow falling over the Imperial Saint, eye lenses bright in the dim light.
I have been informed that you are Saint Lazarus. Is that correct?
The super soldier rumbled from on high. The former sergeant could barely find his voice to answer with. He had seen Space Marines before, during the evacuations of Zektek, but this man...
Okay, you were just acknowledged by a space marine. You've done more than most people can.
And even the apothecary
flesh
were
is
taller
weak.
than what he was used to seeing, standing almost a foot or more higher than the Marines of the Skywatch had. Yes, I am he. The Saint managed to get past his throat,
Nice Jesus reference there.
to which the transhuman nodded.
Your new augmentations will arrive soon and be connected. Once they are, you will come with me. By the time you are ready, the first of the evacuation ships will be launching back to our fortress monastery, which is holding position in orbit as we speak. The
Lovely.
rest of the command staff shall follow shortly after.
The Space Marine of the Tempered Hands dictated. His voice was thunder, his gaze a raw pressure, his every movement an elegant impossibility. And yet, Lazarus found the strength to shake his head in denial of the Astartes' edict. "I cannot go," he said, almost coughing the words out, which prompted a curious tilt from the Space Marine's head.
"Why not?"
Was the simple question he received in return. Lazarus shook his head again and took a deep breath, steadying himself and firming his resolve. "The Republic is about to launch another assault. They are closing in around the Basilica even now, and I won't fail in the mission given to me," the Imperial Saint clarified.
"And what mission is that?"
Yes.
Asked the captain. "To save as many as I can," was Lazarus' stalwart response, filling the words with all the conviction he had left in his body.
That's our
"I
boy.
won't flee while my men still fight. The Emperor did not give me back my life so that I could hold it above those of my soldiers. In the words of the Canoness, I was given back not my life, but my death. And I would be
There we
failing
go.
that if I did not risk that death doing as she commanded me. As
Prophet, your rights here. Guys, I cannot express how much balls it takes to stand up to a Space Marine when you never had a chance to even see a Space Marine before. I'm just saying.
the Emperor commanded me," he explained forcefully. The Marine leaned back and seemed to consider the words. Lazarus felt like he might be crushed under his scrutinizing gaze, but after a moment or so, the enormous man nodded his helmed head, neither judging nor lauding the words.
There we go.
"Then who shall go first?"
The Marine asked.
"You are in command of the Basilica, yes?"
The Astartes continued, and after a pause, Lazarus formed an answer, even as he began sweating beyond the demands of the room's temperature.
Yeah.
I am. And it is my will that the wounded be taken first, beginning with the most critically injured. Command staff or not, everyone else will be needed to fight off the next assault."
See, this is what happens when you put a sergeant in charge. They do smart stuff. There we go.
Lazarus found himself saying. The Marine made an odd, mechanical grating sound that suddenly had Lazarus feeling a flush in his face. The transhuman warrior was laughing, or at least chuckling at him. "Do you find my cause amusing? Do you think the wounded any less worthy of rescue?" The Saint snapped, single fist clenching, but the Astartes shook his head.
"We will do as you say. The wounded shall go first.
Affirmed the super soldier.
But none of your men will be required to drive off the Republic's next assault."
Said the first captain. Lazarus blinked at that. How
Oh, God.
quickly was this evacuation going to be? There was
It doesn't matter how quick the evacuation is. They're all going to die.
no way to corral them all into gunships and leave the surface of the planet before the Republic's next attack. Lazarus was sure of it. What do you mean? I realize the first company of any Space Marine chapter is formidable. I've heard the legend.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I've seen the work of squads of Marines, even if from afar. But you will take losses. Your numbers will be dwarfed by what the Republic is gathering outside even now. The former sergeant tried to explain, but the enormous warrior merely shook his head.
"The first company has not arrived to help you."
Said the captain of the first company, leaving Lazarus even more confused than before. Until the super soldier clarified himself further.
"The entire chapter has written to your aid, and the Arch-Imbalancer is addressing the defense of your Basilica personally. There will be no losses. No angels shall fall before we are finished. The only one of us whom they will even be able to target will be the master of our chapter, and he is already dead. And rest assured, Saint Lazarus, no matter how hard the Republic may try, they cannot kill death."
Hey! We got a virus bomb, a cannoness basically dive bombing onto a virus bomb. At the same time, we got a full company of Space Marines touching down on the planet. Hey!
Hey there, fellow fans. Fan with too much time here, wishing you all a happy Mother's Day and hoping you're enjoying this latest episode of
Call
Star
your moms,
Wars
you heathens.
Warhammer 40K, The Lords of
I'm not liking it at all. Not at all.
Catastrophe. This series has been a lot of fun to make, though it has not been easy. And I can honestly tell you I would not have made it this far if not for the constant moral support given to me by my fellow fans, who quite
Thank you, Lord Admiral Sal. Dreadnought Chapter Master, yes.
literally help lift me up as I feel heavy under all the work that needs to get done to make sure that I reach the end and finish. However, I should inform you that I also do live another life as my own creator of my own original works and comic books in particular. And towards that end, I have been doing quite a lot recently in promoting the steps I need to take in order to finally become an independent creator in the way I've always dreamed that I could be. For you see, fellow fans, it is truly my greatest dream to one day stand as a truly independent content creator, producing novels, comic books, and all other kinds of creative media for people to consume, learn from, and escape into.
Prophet says, I would call my mom, but I haven't seen her in nearly 8 years. Dude, call your mom. If you can. Just do it. Just do it. Guys, Fan has been working his ass off on this stuff. Like, you guys don't know. There's certain things that you guys don't know. Like, I, myself, with what I do, with the scripting that I do, I literally moved my work computer here. So in between me doing work tasks, I could come over here and work on scripts because I was falling behind on scripts because of all the other stuff I was trying to get done. I've had, I run really 3 channels at this point. I have the lore channel, which is I'm slowly updating to everything. I have this channel, which is my primary reaction channel. It's the primary channel. It's Old Man Reacts. You guys know. You're here. I'm also starting a thing up on Twitch. My goal has always been, guys, to just share my passions with you guys. Whether that be me doing it in terms of lore, whether that be me in terms of getting own-zoned out of the water. This is fans' passion.
But it's a scary time for creatives. With AI devices like ChatGPT essentially providing free, functional writing at zero overhead cost, it's begun making the landscape a little more hostile than I had imagined it would be. But as long as there are good fans out there who will not accept a lower quality product and mindless corporate efficiency over stories and narratives created by minds not so dissimilar to your own, then I have faith, true faith, that I can eventually reach this dream before Judgment Day rolls around. And
how many times have I said one day before the heat death of the universe?
And that was what I wanted to talk to you about today. A few months ago, I introduced many of you to the first major creative work made between me and my brother. The world of the Red Hunt.
Speaking of which, because I know you're in here, I smell you lurking. When are you going to send me details so I can start promoting your stuff? I'm just saying.
With Red Hunt, issue number 1. At that time, thanks in large part to your support here from this channel, me and my brother actually did manage to gather up enough funds to continue and begin production of Red Hunt issue number 2,
nice.
Further expanding upon the world of Red Rune, as well as everything around him, from the various mysteries that are invested within this alternate universe rendition of the United States, to all of the various monsters that inhabit it, and the monster hunters who must risk their lives to place some barrier between them and civilization itself. But today, I come to introduce you to a new world, one of high fantasy, of powerful sorcery, of combating cultures and distinct magic. Please allow me to formally introduce you to the world of Song and Stone.
I actually saw that short come up earlier today in my feed. I saw a short come up earlier today in my feed about Song and Stone. So I am legitimately, like, I haven't even, like, looked at that because I know if I do, you guys are going to crucify me. I understand.
This project is my pride and joy, and it is my hopes that with help from you, I'll be able to kick it off as not just a single issue, but an entire expansive narrative. To that end, I have made this, the first issue of Song and Stone, free to anyone who would like to view it on my website at thenightlibrary.net. You can find a link to it down below in the description of this video.
Let me stop because I just saw something in chat that I need to address. Yes. Some moms... Okay, a mom is a mom. And then there is a mother, which is a different matter entirely. If you have a mom, it doesn't have to be your biological mom. I know I have technically 4 people I call mom, which I'll be calling tomorrow. But if you don't have that, if you don't have a biological mom, reach out to somebody that you consider a mom.
It has been a distinct privilege to watch as this story that I've had for so long and I've been building up for such an amount of my life being converted into a format that you can enjoy. But just as with the Red Hunt, there is much more to this story that can be told in a single issue, and so I am eager to begin really producing and getting to work on issue number 2. And so I have launched a Kickstarter to help me fund and gather up the resources I will need to continue with this awesome work. If successful, if I can continue, then I will come one step closer to finally being able to support myself through my greatest passion, which is, of course, storytelling in various kinds of mediums. It's a dream that both me and my brother are constantly striving towards and constantly looking to achieve. Something that we can only do with your help. Now, thanks to my comment section, I know that there are a fair amount of you who've been asking how you can give me back a little or reward me for all the work I've put into Star Wars versus Warhammer 40k and all the other free series I feature on my channel. If this is a genuine desire that you have, then I have a genuine way that you can help me that would be purely and completely amazing. Please look in the description down below, in the description of this very video, and check out the Kickstarter. If you like, please go ahead and read the comic. Judge its worth for yourself. If you see something that you think is worth investing in, please do. With that support, I have true faith and belief that one day me and my brother will accomplish our dream. We'll create various stories and multiple narratives, things that people can enjoy, can escape into, maybe even learn from. It is my pleasure to serve. But to serve, I need a little bit of help. So please, consider reading the comic. Consider looking at the Kickstarter. And if you think it's worth it, consider donating. It means the world to me. Thank you so much for giving me some of your time. And without further ado, I return you to the next episode of Star Wars versus Warhammer 40k, The Lords of Catastrophe.
Yes.
Please enjoy.
Real quick, guys. Real quick. Fan, while you're lurking, can you put your... I'm not sure if you can or not. You know what? Hold on a second. I'm gonna... I don't know if you can or not. Fan has access to my Discord. He also has access to a couple other things. Hold on a second, Fan. Boop. Boop. Okay, come on. How do I do things? Oh, I actually need to be on this. Oh, hold on a second. Like 35 steps in the wrong direction here. Let's see. There he is. Okay, great. All right. There we go. And there we go. Fan just became a moderator. Fan, I think that'll allow you to post links. If you want to go ahead. There we go. I'd like it if Fan would go ahead and post those links. Post the links to the Kickstarter. Post the links to the comic. Everything like that. Guys, if you're watching this on VOD, those links are going to be put in the description down below as soon as I finish this live stream and I have a chance to actually do something in the comment section myself. So all that's going to be put in there. I can't really hit edit right now on everything like that because it will quite literally nuke the live stream. Guys, this has been a extremely good series. I always do my best to look for the I always do my best to look for the absolute best in anything that you guys wanted me to check out. And I still remember you guys recommending Star Wars versus 40K to me way back before I started the series, when I was still looking for what to do after the series that I was watching at the time had finalized. We watched all Guardsman Party, and then we started watching Star Wars versus 40K. And ever since then, it's been a thing. Once we caught up to everything, we started doing these live streams. Every single time Fan has released, we have been live streaming the very next day, if not within the week. So you guys have all come here. You've all enjoyed it. I would ask that you guys go check out the Kickstarter, check out the comic book, because I'll tell you guys something. You guys support me in my dream. Every time I put out a video, you guys go check it. You hit the like button, you comment, everything like that. And you guys help me support myself and like what I'm trying to do here. This is what Fan wants to do. Fan wants to bring storylines like this to everyone. Okay? He wants to spread his influence as well. And damn it, it's an influence that deserves to be spread. So, do me that favor, go check out those links, and if you can help him out, help the dude out. In any case, let's go. And I swear to God, this sounds like a Nurglite.
Jedi Master Oppo Rancisis narrowed his reptilian eyes, the wind blasting against his face and tossing his tangled beard as he hung outside of his command LAAT gunship. Alongside his own vessel were many others, various converging troop transports of airborne design which filled the air around them with the warbling buzz of repulsion.
And Fan, if you could do me a favor and send that to me, I think I know how to update every video inside the playlist for this, so I'd like to do that. So if you could send those links to me, I'd appreciate it.
Pulsar lift engines. The designated spires where the enemy had touched down were just ahead, spikes on the skyline growing rapidly closer, and his keen senses were already tracking the nimble giants of the Imperium as they moved about atop them. Oppo had 4 arms and a serpentine body, his tail wrapped around 3 safety restraints within the gunship to enable him to protrude safely from
Oh no, he looks like Fulgrim. You don't want to look like Fulgrim in front of these guys.
the cabin, the wind whipping around his body and billowing his robes. His lower right hand rubbed subconsciously against the lightsaber wounds in his chest, the near-mortal injuries only recently healed that he had suffered through at the hands of the fallen Jedi Sora Bulk. His compatriots had assumed him dead, and he very nearly had died, though a potent force trance and subsequent back-to-tank treatments had saved his life. Phantoms of his brush with becoming one with the Force hovered close at hand as he shut his outer eyes and opened his inner ones. With a summoning of his training and discipline, the Jedi Master and Tactician initiated a state of comprehensive battle meditation and connected his mind with subtle skill to the minds of all of his clones. Not only that, but Master Rancesis stretched out his perceptions, casting them like nets over the locations occupied by those mysterious space marines. They appeared to be setting up equipment and deploying tanks, of all things. The spires were no meager distance from the Basilica, and the Jedi Master was left more than a little perplexed as to what it was they intended to do with them.
Shove 'em up your ass.
Armored machines had been released onto every one of the handful of tower tops they now occupied, along with scores of supposed Imperial super soldiers. Were they creating a space to retreat into? Were these big metal boxes some kind of artillery, like the ATTEs, SPHAs, or the AV-7s? He did not know enough about them to be sure, and the emotions he read from the deployed Space Marines were muted at best, to the point where Rancesis began to wonder if they were not, in truth, droids. The Serpentine Jedi reached up with one of his hands and tapped against the communicator bead on the side of his head.
Captain Fordo, I do not trust this approach. Before we fall into their proper firing range, I want you to send out some LAT LEs to scout and assess their anti-air capabilities. Probe their defenses with a preemptive strafe,
He directed.
Oh,
order, General.
Was the veteran clone's communicated response. Oppo then watched on through the force and minds of the assigned clones and pilots as their nimble, city-oriented variant gunships sped ahead of the rest of their airborne force. He was pleased to see that Captain Fordo had split the probing force into 4 separate swarms of craft. 2 groups to enter combat from above, and 2 to enter from below. The actual damage these ships did was negligible. But there were few gunships fielded by the Republic which were more maneuverable amongst the densely packed cityscapes of places like Axum and Coruscant than the smaller, agile LE variants. Rancesis hoped this would increase their ability to evade enemy fire and survive the probing of their defenses, his mind focusing more completely upon the run as they closed in on their targets. Right away, Rancesis felt his hopes falter as the above gunships were engaged first. Contrary to what he had suspected, a fair amount of the square tanks deployed by the Imperium were anti-air armaments. Something revealed in hideous fashion as their top-mounted turrets lifted and fired.
Hobbit says Captain Fordo is the Marbo of the clone army. Okay, that's interesting.
They spilled
you, Hobbit.
hundreds of thousands of thick, almost head-sized rounds of solid ammunition into the sky.
Lovely.
The superheated streams of steel moving far faster than blaster rounds ever had a chance to be, and moving into both separate groups of skyward flyers that the Republic had deployed. Right away, Oppo's mind went to work, connecting brains, lending instincts to the gunners and the pilots alike as he sought to help them avoid the hazardous cascade of shells that came hurtling towards them. But he quickly realized that it was for naught, as Master Rancesis came to understand that it was not the volume of the shots they fired that made these platforms deadly, it was their aim. To call them unerring would be an understatement.
Yeah.
The rain of shredding bullets not only tracking each gunship with near perfection, but also anticipating their most likely veers of escape, and filling those spaces with death as well. It took less than 9 seconds for all of the gunships that had approached from above to become little more than shredded balls of fire and metal.
Y'all about to learn today. Josh Tompkins says this guy is one of the few Jedi who's actually a great general. Yeah, and due to the actions of somebody who drunk just a little bit too much of the dark side Kool-Aid, he's about to be a dead general.
Spinning out and colliding into the surrounding cityscape, where they did not simply detonate in the air.
Hacks.
Rancesis felt every single loss, every snuffed mind, and every terrified, doomed thought from the troopers who had survived the initial volley only to die in the following collisions. But he would not let those lives be in vain, for they had revealed something vital and something he would not soon forget. Approaching as they had to land troops directly onto the rooftops that the Astartes now occupied was blatant suicide.
Yeah.
Now he turned his focus on the lower 2 groups who evaded the anti-air fire of the tanks, becoming the attention of the Space Marines who manned the rims of the towers. This time, the gunships were able to come into effective range of their own weapons, opening up their strafing runs with volleys from their missile launchers and laser cannon turrets. Rancisis sent them all the premonition that, even as they passed their attack runs, they needed to stay below the line of the enemy's anti-air defenses, but it was a warning most would not need to hear.
Mr. Pickett Gamer, thank you. Captain Fordo is so much as a... Fordo, I'm an idiot. Is so much of a badass I had to leave him out of the Clone Wars remake so he wouldn't steal the show from the 501st? Damn, okay.
The Space Marines along the edges of the spire opened fire at the exact same moment, most wielding slug throwers which issued forth highly explosive rounds, with a few bringing to bear rapidly dispensing cannons that were not unlike those wielded by the tanks, and even several man-portable air defense systems in the forms of missile and rocket launchers.
Lovely.
All of these weapons had devastating effects on the gunships, ripping not only the vessels to pieces in startlingly short order, but even tearing the missiles fired at them from the sky with coordinated flurries of fire which matched the accuracy of the tanks. The Jedi Master realized then that the reports of these Space Marines, how heavily armed they were, and how proficient they had shown themselves to be in battle, was no overstatement. If anything, their prowess had been understated.
Massively.
Not one of the probing craft made it back, even with Rancisis lending them his power and battle meditation. Their firing lines were too tight, their weapons too effective, the Republic's options for approach being far, far too limited. The Jedi Master looked to the sky, thinking to call in a limited bombardment from the reinforcing Star Destroyers, but one glance was all he needed to know that this tactic would be just as costly and nearly as likely to fail. Hovering above them all, the high-orbit airspace of the battle was being actively contended and currently dominated by the behemoth vessels of the Space Marines. Tens of Venators were attempting to surround the comparatively few vessels, but second by second, they were being blown out of the sky. If anything, they needed aid before all of their ship support was spent throwing itself against them.
Yeah,
Captain,
they're screwed.
I want you to send back an order to Field Command. Tell them to deploy the SPHAs and have them begin reinforcing the Venators in orbit with all the firepower they can. We need to destroy or force away those Imperial capital ships,
Ordered Oppo.
Aye, sir. And what about the approach?
Asked the captain.
We are veering down. I am dismissing the notion of a direct assault. Instead, we will safely deploy several levels lower into the spires but outside of their weapons range. We will move our forces up through the tower's levels, and once we come within a certain distance, we will deploy obscurification smoke to isolate their effective reach. Then we will begin fighting our way up towards them, level by level. Once we have enough of their defenses distracted by our forces, I will call in air support to harry them as we push them back.
The legendary Jedi explained.
I am so sorry because that plan sounds so good. But oh damn.
Right, dispersing the orders now, sir.
Affirmed the clone captain, calming the rest of their large battle group, with Oppo feeling the shift in their direction
It's a
right
good
away.
plan.
He knew that Master Coleman
Not
wanted
against
fast
this.
results, but he would have to settle for the smoke they would soon deploy to block the enemy's ability to aim at the Basilica grounds from here. Rancisis had overseen impossible battles and objectives before, and it was never desperation or the press to rush that availed them victory.
This ain't gonna work, bro. I'm just saying,
Only careful consideration and preservation of forces yielded long-lasting results, and he would win this battle in the same way he had won the siege of Salukami, with serenity,
Lord Inquisitor from the Order Heretica says, let's just play a fun game of Geneva checklist.
discipline, and faith in the Force. He would cleave through the red chaos of war and match his wits against the battle acumen of the Space Marines.
Oh.
And he would prevail, if
No.
the Force willed it.
Your soul belongs to the Force, but your ass is mine. Lord Admiral Salt says, Republic, SPHAs are nearly Titan grid weaponry. That is not bad, but it's real. it's not going to do what... it's going to help. It's going to help, of course, but it's not going to do nearly as much as it needs to. Here we go. Thank you, Lord Admiral Salt. Geneva ain't even a suggestion. The Geneva joke session.
Coleman Kakash watched from his gunship, observing with his underslung.
Maxim says, hey, old man, how would the Jedi react to the virus bomb? Absolute horror. Absolute horror. Like, here's the bad thing. We are still, like, here's the thing, guys. The wider Republic still doesn't know how bad this is. They don't understand how bad this is yet. The aftermath of this battle hasn't even begun to ripple out. Not even partially, okay? Not even partially. The aftermath hasn't even started to echo out from this battle. This is one of those battles that's going to fundamentally change the Republic as it stands, even now. Because this singular battle has probably been as bloody, if not more bloody, than half the Clone War. Outright. And they're still going. It has been an absolute massacre, okay? So far. And I'm not insulting Jedi Snake. I'm just basically saying he's got an excellent plan, but the wrong damned opponent. It's a massively good plan at this point. And if it were against Imperial Guard, it would work. But not against this.
Eyes as the towers in the distance were gradually crowned with tall plumes of shimmering black smoke.
Lord Inquisitor.
Each rising column emanated from the windows far below their tops, near the center portions of the spires rising in blooming pillars which obscured all that lay above them. The alien Jedi General snorted in mild disapproval, but reined in his emotions. While he had been hoping that Oppo's forces would have been able to engage the Imperials in a more direct and immediate contest, he also knew well enough not to doubt Master Rancisis or his choice in tactics. The Jedi Master gave a final, reluctant grunt and looked down into his own battlefield.
Yeah, look at what fans saying. I have not in any one point been dissing the Jedi, but I know what they are like. I know what they're fighting. They don't. Like, the Jedi, for a very long time, have had the top tier as, like, top tier things they're going to be fighting against set at a certain level. Just set at one absolute level. But, just like we are here, and, like, they're now fighting things that are just on a completely different scale that they have no idea where the upper limit is. And this is going to happen to anyone that is up against something where they simply don't know their limit. And this is what's going to happen. At no point have the Jedi been incompetent. I've never said that. What I do know, however, is what they're actually about to fight. And I know what they're capable of. But good God, guys. It's the... Oh.
Hovered above it inside of his command, LAAT. Commander Neo still at his side. He and his forces would wait no longer. After all, the vast army below him had already done as he had ordered them to do. The entire Imperial perimeter around their temple was now secured. Repulsor tanks, walkers, and juggernauts stood or hovered in rings around their final fortification, ready to scramble, fire, and bombard at his command. Standing between and around Coleman's armored support was nearly an entire legion of eager clone troopers, various ranks and subtypes standing proud and at the ready. Flying above the assembled warriors of the Republic were all the various gunships which had carried them here. Gunships where the majority of their fellow Jedi Knights lingered, watching over the entire scene like divine scions, ready to act. At his nod, the command was given, and most of the Force-empowered warriors descended down, taking direct command of the breaching squads and shock troops. Those brave clones who would be the first into the cracks and access points of the religious fortress which loomed before them. The whole place was locked up tight, Every shutter closed, the internal landing bays sealed, even the pillboxes and turret emplacements having been boarded up with bands of folding metal. But none of those barriers would remain in place for long. This Kekaj knew well. He was mere moments from ordering the first penetrative salvos when something utterly unexpected occurred. Something that had Coleman's alien eyes swiveling and bobbing on the ends of their low stalks. The front gates of the basilica began to screech, the enormous figures carved into them swinging open to lend passage not to the legion outside, but to some force from within.
Oh boy.
Prepare for them.
Coleman ordered down to all his forces through his communications bead. The sounds of thousands of blaster rifles and orienting laser cannons being angled towards the doors filled the air densely. The clones giving a resounding shout as captains gave their orders and sergeants ensured they were carried out. But where Coleman expected a suicidal charge of hundreds or even thousands of desperate Imperials, he once more found his predictions subverted. Only a single figure emerged from the depths of the basilica, lumbering, massive in size and bulk. For what that figure lacked in companions, it clearly made up for with enormous size, armor, and armament.
It's about time for the Republic to truly hear the song of the Imperium's people.
What Master Kekaj could only assume to be some kind of massive droid began to stomp its way out of the basilica, clanking and thumping.
Oh,
its
this is
movements
gonna hurt
were, at once, rigid in fashion, yet somehow bearing an odd, subtle smoothness. An intention within the details of its forward march that Kekaj was unused to seeing in any, save perhaps the likes of General Grievous and the ruinous bounty hunter known as Dirge. Its armor was purple in color and covered in Imperial livery.
Oh man, the Jedi are hearing Dark Souls music right now. They don't even know what the tune means.
And words of various kinds. Its shape was almost box-like, despite the relative nimbleness with which it was moving, but by far its most notable features were those found at its center and those which composed its chosen weapon. In one of its enormous, gauntlet-like hands, the machine was carrying an absolutely colossal blade. The sword was easily taller than the being wielding it was, lines of sparking lightning and power coursing up and down the length of the weapon.
God.
And in the center of its boxy body was what appeared to be a coffin, engraved with a human skeleton at rest, arms crossed over its chest. This strange sarcophagus ended in what appeared for all the world to be a skull-like helmet, which tilted and turned to regard the army as it emerged.
Hobbit says, Jedi, why are we hearing boss music?
Naturally, Coleman had only a few moments to observe the lumbering machine before the clones and tanks opened fire upon it, taking aim and dispensing death as soon as the Imperial droid exited the building. Thousands of rifles began pouring a rain of blazing blue into its resilient hull, and green bolts and beams began to find it as laser cannons and composite lasers were primed and readied. The machine warrior stood against it for only a handful of seconds, most of the prayer scrolls which were mounted across its body burning up. Its Imperial feet only managing to stagger and stumble partway down the stairs leading up to the entrance before the entire construct was forced down to its knees. The droid-like walker kneeled into the shadow of its weapon, hull blazing as it slammed the blade of its enormous sword into the stone beneath it. An act the Jedi thought symbolized their victory over it, a belief which was dispelled less than a second later.
Lovely.
As soon as the war machine did this, Coleman was
Show me what passes for fury among your most begotten kind.
forced to shield his sensitive eyes, closing them and turning away as the walker exploded into a radiant corona of energy. Or at least, it seemed to explode, though more and more, Master Kekaj was doubting that this had actually occurred. Fire continued to be poured against it, rockets and mass drivers being thrown into the volley, and yet, soon, The brilliance being released from the target had intensified so much that K-Cash could not block it out even with his eyelids closed and his eyes covering over his stalks.
Uh-oh.
Within only a few moments, no one could stand to look at the source of light long enough to aim their weapons at it without going blind.
Hold your fire. Hold your fire.
K-Cash yelled into his comms device, and shortly after, his orders were followed. The now largely inaccurate shots dying down rapidly, clones and Jedi groaning and covering their faces. And yet, when K-Cash's eyes began to recover, he was shocked to see that the bipedal Imperial machine was still intact. Kneeling where it had stopped, a shimmering shell of energy slowly dimming around its body. Even after the shield had vanished, the mechanical warrior did not rise, did not attack, and did not make any overt movement. Master Coleman K-Cash found himself puzzled, his irregular eyes regaining their clarity faster than those of his human clones and several of his Jedi fellows. What was the nature of this droid warrior? Was it meant as some kind of emissary, someone the Imperials had sent to surrender, or was
He's coming to tell you about your car's extended warranty. And you don't have a choice.
it truly just another pointlessly aggressive weapon?
Keep your guard up. Order our forces to return fire into it the moment it seems hostile, or I give the command. And take me down there. I need to be the one to confront it.
This might be a bad
Ordered
idea.
Master Coleman.
General, I hardly think that's...
Commander Neo began to say.
That is an order, Commander Neo. Execute.
The Jedi Master asserted. The clone hesitated for a moment, but then nodded reluctantly and went further into the cabin to contact the pilot.
Who doesn't know what a Dreadnought is? X in chat if you do not know what a Dreadnought is, and I will stop and explain.
In moments, the LAAT gunship was hovering over the scene, and Coleman K-Cash was jumping off, landing closest to the odd machine, rising with a flourish and activating his green lightsaber. The Jedi Master approached and was about to speak when, suddenly, it spoke instead, blurring out a sentence in Galactic Basic through several loudspeakers built into its bulky hull.
Are you lord among these witches and false men?
The walker.
Oh no. Guys, have you ever had a time where you're sitting there, you're about to watch something absolutely horrible, but at the same time you can't stop laughing? That's my emotions right now. If you do not know what a Dreadnought is, guys, a Dreadnought is a space marine that at some point throughout his service was catastrophically wounded, okay? Now, what they do with this, and there are several patterns of Dreadnought, the oldest type is called the Contemptor pattern, which this one does not look to be the Contemptor pattern. My brain is melting to try to remember the name of this. Fan, if you could provide the model of this. But a Dreadnought is essentially a space marine that is too injured to continue. The coffin is quite literally a coffin for the space marine's body, okay? And you're talking an extreme amount of armor, heavy weapons. You're talking specializations. Dreadnoughts can have melee specializations, range specializations, but they have a monstrous amount of firepower. Dreadnoughts are usually kept asleep until they're needed. They're usually kept in like a deep sleep until they're needed. But inside the chassis of that piece of Brutalis pattern, inside the chassis of that Brutalis pattern Dreadnought, there is the literal corpse of a space marine that is just alive enough to pilot the damn thing. One of the primary things a Dreadnought says is, even in death, I still serve. Now, here's the thing. Your standard space marine armor, this thing has enough of to basically outfit a tank with. They are a literal walking juggernaut that is completely incapable. Like, the amount of, like, the clones don't have anything right now that could hurt this thing, okay? They don't have anything. Now, the Jedi with their lightsabers could if they could incapacitate it. But just because it looks big and bulky, don't think that thing's slow. It has an Astartes inside of it. And unleashing a Dreadnought onto the battlefield is quite seriously... You don't really care about what happens on that battlefield anymore because it's going to destroy everything. Oh, God. You're talking... There is so much... Oh, my God. Josh says, this is Brutalis Dreadnought. Matthew Daughtry says, RoboCop 2. RoboCop on crack is more like it. And you cannot kill death. Thank you, Hobbit. Thank you, Josh. Lightsabers won't go through adamantium? Pretty much. They'd have to go after the supports. They'd have to do precision strikes into the weapon ports. But even then, I don't think they have anything that could take this thing down. Here we go.
Asked in a deep...
Oh yes, and the greatest Giga Chat of all time, as far as Dreadnoughts go, is Rylanor. But let's get on.
Deep, resonating voice. Coleman's eyes swiveled somewhat, but he nodded his head, slowly approaching the kneeling Dreadnought.
I am commanding officer here, yes,
said the alien, sweeping
God.
his saber out probingly, squinting as his blade touched across the invisible shield. His sword of light's glowing tip revealed its boundary, the Aegis illuminating once more with a bright white phosphorus shine. He could see the plasma cycling in his blade being absorbed rapidly, his saber shrinking momentarily, bobbing against the touch of the shield as the fifth form of matter which composed it was drained out and then replenished by his own kyber crystal.
And what precisely are you? An emissary? A droid?
Coleman asked in return, taking a step back and watching as the radiance retreated once more. He could hear it now. A high-pitched buzz, potentially beyond what humans could pick up, yet this close he could not help but notice it. The shield was converting matter, even plasma, which made contact with it into raw light, and though Coleman K-Cash was never a deeply technological Jedi, he had to appreciate the strangeness of this method of shielding technology.
Oh, God.
I am Sebastian Vondrel, Arch-Imbalancer of the Tempered Hands chapter of the Emperor's Angels of Death.
Responded the large, mechanized man, its skull-faced helmet tilting ever so slightly to track Coleman as the Jedi Master began to pace back and forth in front of the machine.
And while I am now composed of more iron than meager flesh, I remain, as I have always been, a human man, and an Adeptus Astartes.
Oh no.
I am no machine. I am empowered by them.
It rumbled. This had Coleman blinking in renewed surprise, pausing his pacing as he observed Sebastian with new understanding. He also could not help but notice the damage upon the carapace of the evidently entombed warrior, or rather, the lack thereof. The blaster fire, even before the shield had been raised, had done next to nothing, failing to scorch anything other than the prayer scrolls which clung to the Space Marine's hull. The heavier laser cannons had managed to leave shallow impact craters in several places.
I glanced over this, Mr. Pika. Would you like me to read it as a wrestling announcement? I will do so. Just let me know.
Which still smoked and glowed dully with residual
Just let me
heat.
know, Mr. Pika.
A continued bombardment of those weapons would have worn it down in a few seconds, and had succeeded in shoving the mech around. Yet it seemed that the shield had been raised before too much effectual damage could actually be inflicted, and the missiles and mass drivers of the clones had been entirely warded off by the technology within the Space Marine's iron body. It was an impressive display, but not one which would enable this warrior to challenge the forces arrayed before him, and if the Imperial dared to rise from his kneeling position, Coleman knew he would not last more than 15 seconds at best.
You are a Space Marine.
Oh, God. Okay, here we go. Just Some Guy says, this isn't your ordinary bolt weapon, this is advanced bolt weapon. Yes, Just Some Guy, This is about to be bad. This is about to be bad. Okay, hold on a second.
Well, you know, the Jedi are about to step into the square circle, man. Where only the cream of the crop rises to the top. Oh, yeah. They'll know the wrath of the Death Toller of rock and roller, the machine man Sebastian Savage. Oh, yeah.
What do I do this for? Why am I an idiot, guys? You're lucky I love you guys. Here we go. Oh, God. Okay, here we go.
You're larger than I'd imagined, and your full far more outnumbered.
K-Cash stated, waving his free hand back over the assembled army.
I assume you've come to surrender.
The Jedi Master concluded.
Incorrect.
The Space Marine announced at once.
Wait, what? Hold
K-Cash
on.
took a step back. The Marines had managed to leave shallow
I
impact
gotta
craters
get
in
that
several
back.
places, which still smoked and glowed dully with residual heat. A continued bombardment of those weapons would have worn it down in a few seconds, and had succeeded in shoving the mech around. Yet it seemed that the shield had been raised before too much effectual damage could actually be inflicted, and the missiles and mass drivers of the clones had been entirely warded off by the technology within the Space Marine's iron body. It was an impressive display, but not one which would enable this warrior to
Yes, I
challenge
am an
the
idiot, but
forces
I'm your
arrayed
idiot.
before
Yeah,
him.
Hobbit, thank you.
And if the Imperial dared to rise from his kneeling position, Coleman knew he would not last more than 15 seconds at best.
You are a Space Marine. You're larger than I'd imagined, and your full far more outnumbered.
Sorry.
K-Cash stated, waving his free hand back over the assembled army.
I assume you've come to surrender.
The Jedi Master
Bitch, say what? Oh, God, no.
concluded.
Incorrect.
The Space Marine announced at once. K-Cash took a step back, the machine's joints beginning to rumble.
I am an angel of death, and I have not come to surrender.
Spoke the ancient warrior.
Then why have you come?
Yelled K-Cash, the men all around him re-centering their weapons to the best of their ability, many still blinking spots
To play you the song of my people, or to... I will accept no other response than to play you the song of my people, or to tell you about your car's extended warranty at this point.
out of their eyes.
I have come to destroy you.
Okay, that works too. What? Oh, okay, we're here. We're here. We're here. We're here. We're here. We're here.
They have deployed some kind of smoke. It is black and shimmery, and it is blocking our auto senses and direct targeting augury arrays.
Reported Force Commander Belarus Harfan. The Force Commander stood amongst the many busy serfs of the chapter as they moved the munition, prepared and manned tanks and turrets, and continued arming the Melta charges. All of his battle brothers, the recently enhanced Marines of the Tempered Hands chapter, were armed and out, ready to repel another attack with extreme prejudice. Before him was the only Marine not holding a gun, the captain of the 9th Company, Disporus Taltan.
Then
Disporus?
they are trying to obscure our vision of the Basilica. Is the New Spirit connection we have with Sebastian compromised?
Asked the captain, himself seated in a deployed command nodule, wires and cables linking thickly into his head, the powerful machinery around him extending various sensor probes and rotating dishes into the air, which bobbed and waved of their own accord.
No, Captain. It seems that their countermeasure is not sufficient to sever that link, especially not with the Wing of Iron directly overhead. The Republic is moving its forces rapidly up towards us, however. I estimate a 98...
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Monday Night Raw. Jedi are in big trouble here. The Iron Hands are about to lay down a pipeline and whoop that ass.
0.2% chance of engaging them in less than 7 minutes.
Please, Cyclonius.
Very good. All is progressing according to the predictions of the Temperance Engine and the Arch Imbalancer.
Oh, God.
Was the ninth captain's response.
Keep an eye on their activities to the best of your ability and lead the counterattack on them once their initial assault has begun. Fall back and allow them to occupy zones 7 through 9. Get as many that close as you can, but do not allow them to penetrate zones 6 and under. I will continue to coordinate firing solutions with the Imbalancer. Current estimates dictate a 74.8% chance that his battle will begin at the same time as our own. I intend to have closed the margins of death by an additional 12.9% effectiveness by then.
The venerable Space Marine ordered.
Josh Tompkins says, and there we had the other side of Jedi intelligence, the idiots. Josh, they have no idea what they're looking at, and they don't even have the faintest fucking clue what they're about to experience.
As you will it, Ninth Captain. We will not fail in our precision. We will prove our worth to the chapter.
Announced the Force Commander, slamming his hammer-bearing fist against his chest before turning and rallying his command squad, leading them personally down to where their battle was soon to begin.
Yay.
The ninth captain nodded, a trickle of amusement sliding through the circuits and neurons of his augmented brain. He had been one of the most vocal when it came to questioning the statistical wisdom of embracing the gifts of the Lord Commander of the Imperium so readily. But these new Marines, while lacking in some doctrine, made up for it with zeal and a burning desire to become equal amongst their existing battle brothers of the chapter.
They're Primaris.
In his mind, he could see these new Primaris Marines developing splendidly, and his own transformed body was adapting rapidly to his old augmentations. The Jedi had faced the wrath of the Firstborn and had been found wanting. Now they would be confronted by the keen tactics of the newly elevated Tempered Hands, and Captain Desporus had little doubt they would be found wanting once more. He was fast coming to accept that none could withstand the might of the Rubicon. None could survive it, save those who had crossed it. However, he pushed those thoughts aside for now and focused on his own task. His mind...
The Jedi think that they're going to go fight like a house cat. They're about to run into a Bengal fucking tiger.
Was relayed up into the Wing of Iron, and then through the Temperance Engine itself, before being sent back down to the planet below, connecting directly with the mind of his de facto chapter master. Already he was receiving the indirect targeting solutions he would need to be effective in spite of the countermeasure that the Republic was throwing against them. Desporus did not need to voice any further commands, did not need to give any orders out loud at all. The honored chapter serfs of his armored company received their instructions through the implants within their brains, the same ones that enabled them to connect to their vaunted war machines. The whirlwinds began to turn their heads, empowered men standing beside them, ready to rapidly reload the tanks with their specialized munitions, which stood in tall stacks only an arm's reach away. They had enough power to level the entire basilica and everything around it 9 times over. With precision, the ninth captain of the Tempered Hands corrected the turreted heads, moving them ever so...
Alright, so... Imagine, if you will, a person... Imagine, if you will, just straight out, that you have a... Josh Thompson says, I'll help. Primaris or Space Marines on steroids. Imagine, if you will, you're you. 5'8" to 6'6", something like that, about 120 to 220 pounds, whatever, stuff like that. Or you could be a fucking idiot like me. And you just, you know, you're feeling good about life, you're feeling good about things. Then you see a Space Marine walk in. Motherfucker's 8 foot tall. He's wearing around a tank's worth of armor, okay? He's wearing around a ton of armor. And he's got a gun bigger than your torso. Well, yeah, bigger than your torso, that fires shells about that big, about that wide, okay? That are legitimately moving RPGs. And then imagine something bigger than that, stronger than that, faster than that, coming in right after it. They have Primaris Marines. This is more screwed than I thought. Basically, in reality, it was Games Workshop saying we need Space Marines, which I thought was dumb, but at the same time, there you go. Primaris Marines are space. They are Space Marines. Lord Inquisitor says new Blue Corps starts from the Ultima Segmentum. Yes.
Slightly personally programming each warhead with its destined coordinates. They were the storm of iron. They were the hail of fire. And he was the eye of the storm, staring down, ready to strike.
Lovely. I'm gonna take a quick break, guys. I'm just gonna take a quick break. Guys, get up, grab yourself a drink. We're about to get into it, okay? So everybody just get up. Take a break. We'll be coming back here. Let's say 3 minutes, guys. 4 minutes, something like that. I'll be back with you in a few minutes. Just gotta get up and stretch my leg, which feels like it's about to turn into... it is not fun. But I'll be back in a few minutes. Just get up and get a drink, guys. Yeah, I know. This is it. It's going to be something fun. All right. So, just going to wait for everybody to get back. And wait for everybody to let me know they're back. X in chat if you're back. I'm going to wait about 2 more minutes to get started. And then we'll get started. I hear the hospitaller coming back here. I hear her coming. Are you coming back here? No, she's not. She's not. All right. Hey, Decalonius. You farted a trumpet? Nice. All right. Oh. Okay. Are you winning, son? Okay, let's go. All right. Got back here. You got hot tea and salami. They're delicious. You know what? For some reason, people mix salami and cream cheese, and I don't understand. So how do you think the corporate shipyard conglomerate Palpatine had working so hard are going to react to the massive mass loss of the ships to the Republic Navy? Yeah. That's gonna be a discussion that happens. But it's like I said, the Republic hasn't found out. Like most of the Republic has no idea how bad this battle is, how absolutely horrific this battle is. The Jedi Council, for the most part, they know because, they can feel this kind of stuff, but at the same time, most of the Republic doesn't know how bad this is. It's going to be a whole incident when the Republic, and I can't wait to see how Fan addresses that, because when the wider Republic learns what has happened here, it's going to send shockwaves throughout the Republic. Anyhow, here we go. X in chat if you're ready to go, because I'm ready to go. I am ready to go. You're just waiting for... Yeah, you're waiting for that report on this? Yeah. Have I read the description of the video? No, I have not yet. Hold on a second, I will. 1 second. And... Beep, there we go. Let's see. Soon, their atrocities will only be a memory. That's what the politicians say, but words will not save us. Lies will not protect us, and it is our optimism that will destroy us. In the spires of the slums, the people we protect speak of victory. Victory as the galaxy crumbles. Victory as the Republic burns around us. Victory as the Jedi Order rages against the falling of the light. Victory. Speech given before the Jedi Council by the Supreme Commander of the Galactic Republic. That is Anakin. Oh, boy. Oh, so you're going to text me? You're not going to come in here and say nothing? I get it. Hold on a second. Let me see what she's got to say. Oh, never mind. This isn't... I thought that she was messing with me just because she always does. All right, here we go, guys. Let's get into it. It's time. It's time. 2 steps from hell. Oh, man, I love this.
Sebastian's mind was a maze of history, theory, flesh, and iron. It was a cage in which he trapped all factors and bent them to his will by the strength of pure, bladed logic. Simultaneous calculations ran between the canyons of his intact gray matter like cold water. His augmentations sieving away all fallacy with the unrelenting nature of the will that was born within him. His dual-phase shield, a relic of the heresy, had drained almost 1/6 of the power reserves provided by his immensely strong plasmic reactors. This would have constituted a serious problem if he intended to be within prolonged combat. But that was not the case this time, and he gladly took the loss of power as more than sufficient sacrifice for what he was about to do. He eyed the Jedi alien who strutted before him through his multi-spectrum Auspex arrays that now served as his eyes. He powered his joints and servos, those portions of his new, enhanced body whirring and moaning as they were brought fully online in preparation for what he was sure would be an inevitability.
And how do you expect to destroy me?
He's about to show you.
Asked the Witch Lord, green skin rippling with colors that were not truly visible, but rather representations of temperature changes. The thing was chastened by Sebastian's threat, but bold enough to challenge it. This amused the human parts of the Space Marine, but for his iron mind, it was no more than pointless bluster. The Arch-Imbalancer did not engage in bluffs or idle taunts.
I will call the whirlwind, and it will sweep you all away.
He answered simply, voice rumbling in the air.
In the spirit of preservation, I will make you one offer, Witch Knight. Retreat from this place. Leave it be. If you do, then you will live. If you do not, then you will be destroyed.
This is just him taking the piss right now, because this is just basically being like, bitch, I warned you. I warned you,
said Sebastian, extending Guilliman's mercy through his ultimatum.
Oh my god.
But he only offered it so openly because he knew it would be denied. And so it was. The alien knight did not even seem to pause to consider it, shaking his odd, upside-down skull and clicking in his throat.
We are the Jedi. We do not fear the wind nor the storm. We do not shirk from the lead of the Republic. Surrender to us, and we will ensure you are treated fairly. Before being brought to trial and made to answer for the crimes you have committed against this planet, consider this your one offer, Space Marine.
Oh no. You're about to learn what fear is, buddy.
Take it, or it'll become one with the Force.
The Jedi Master threatened back.
You will, Jedi.
Pronounced the old warrior, some bemusement leaking into his robotic tone.
We will not surrender.
No, but you will
the
fear.
Witch snapped back rapidly, almost angrily. The Dreadnought's head turned from side to side in a denial.
No, Witch. You will not surrender. You will learn to fear the storm. My storm. My whirlwinds.
Granted, the Jedi, of course he has balls. He's a legendary commander. He is excellent at what he does, but he hasn't...
The Arch-Imbalancer clarified. Sebastian had timed his spoken words with the information being streamed through his mind by the powerful Noospheric connection he was linked into. The Jedi's alien, stalk eyes widening for a moment as he sensed the danger, but failed to grasp its nature. He raised his blade wardingly towards Sebastian, expecting the strike to come from him, only for the first volley from the whirlwind artillery tanks to fall, all at once, in perfect synchronicity around them. The initial attack was nowhere near Vondrel himself, a heavy layer of armor-piercing explosive rockets falling in a ring around the outermost line of the Republic's assembled encirclement. Chaos began its reign then, as massive explosions and flames began to geyser out from the heaviest surrounding vehicles, each and every single missile precisely aimed and guided down into the backs of the Republic's heavy armor. Red mushroom clouds expanded up from where the armor was too thick to penetrate, but far more terrible were the effective missiles, venting the same kind of devastation into the interiors of tens of tanks. The titanic juggernauts fielded by the Republic absorbed the damage admirably, but even they, with their shielding and specialized armors, could not withstand such a densely packed attack. Their roofs rupturing and exploding in cascading, glorious fashion. Wheels detonated and melted, turrets were blown off of armored shells, and command centers were eviscerated and filled with purifying flames. Death rained down on the clones for nearly 5 entire seconds, missile after missile cramming itself into the hollowed husks of the behemoth tanks, and ripping legged vehicles apart, creating a wall of burning, melting wrecks which surrounded the assembled force in steel-eating pyres of Alpha Primus-grade promethium. Focus was dragged out and away from the kneeling Arch-Imbalancer, shockwaves from the blasts rippling across the mass of white soldiers and hovering tanks like disturbances in water. Over half the clones and Jedi assembled were thrown from their feet, several of their lighter vehicles being blown away end over end into their masses, crushing any unfortunates enough to not have the force to aid their escape.
That's 5
The
seconds.
army was rocked, deafened, and shocked by the hell wrought within the prolonged cacophony, the first of many. So shocked were they, Replicae and Witch Knights both, that they failed to maintain their focus on Sebastian. A lethal error in their discipline, but one which was understandable, even predicted, as the Dreadnought now demonstrated brutally. He rose, double-layered shield dissolving as he did, his servos heated, his body prepared for the exertions to come. This new form of his, this brutalis pattern Dreadnought, was a marvel. Never before had Sebastian felt so powerful, not even in his former body of steel. The venerable encasement of his former Dreadnought had been powerful, durable, but slow, ancient. Sluggish to respond to his thoughts, movements always failing to capture even half of the grace he had wielded in life. This was different. The neural links that now synced him with the war machine his body had become sank deep into his mind, providing a reactivity and fearsome dexterity that harkened him back to his time before his first death. He gloried in it, made full use of it, even though he knew that this very link, the same technology that would enable the impossible, was also a poison. Each wire, each newly crafted Mechanicus fiber, was a dangerous river of corrosion which would, in time, erode him into nothing. That was why he constrained himself, why he had descended from the heavier weapons of his recent past to the pure simplicity of his blade. Sebastian Vondrel swept his sword horizontally. The Jedi Master he had been conversing with only now turning back to see the strike coming. Impressively, the comparatively tiny warrior caught the Arch-Imbalancer's Siegebreaker Warblade with his own green sword. And even more impressively, the weapon held its integrity against his own. Yet, the same could not be said for the feat of the warrior behind it, as the Jedi Witch Lord was batted away tens of meters into the air and back into the mass of his army.
Imagine something about half as big as a telephone pole swinging a tree trunk at you.
Clones began to return fire on him, but he barely gave them an opportunity to sight their shots, charging down into them, offhand batting away a missile fired in his direction as his chest-mounted dual storm bolters began their assault, ripping into the infantry who stood before them. They were raked with hundreds of exploding rounds, fired at a rate which turned them into white-clad gore and clouds of blood before the Arch-Imbalancer himself was among them. He swept his enormous relic blade through their lines like a reaper, utterly annihilating most who were caught in his path with the oversized power field his warblade was wreathed within, atomizing the bodies of any clones in his way and most Jedi. Those witches who survived did so by evasion or by blocking his enormous weapon with their own, shoving other soldiers aside with their warp abilities to make way as they skidded over the ground. One of the Knights of Jedi leapt up, twirling in the air before landing on the flat of Sebastian's sword, running up it and towards him.
Nice!
In response, the Master of the Tempered Hands flared his power sword's field, transforming the warrior into screaming ashes, not even pausing to consider the...
You tried to run... I was with you for a second there, bruh. I was with you.
act as the Space Marine swept his blade through the blackened cloud that was once the Jedi.
Oh,
his
man!
stride never broke as he continued his attack.
Okay, so literally this guy just landed on a power field. And if you don't know what a power field is, it's like I said, the Jedi don't know what they're fighting. The Jedi just did. If you don't know what the power field is, you're literally... Essentially what this guy is carrying, what this Dreadnought is carrying around is... you could compare it to a lightsaber that is as big as a telephone pole. The damn thing's as big as a telephone pole. No cap, okay? Volcana's having a tantrum. Volcana's having a tantrum. Hobbit said, give that Jedi props, rip the homie. Yeah, no kidding. Oh, he found out. He found out.
Bolters blitzing with fire and rage.
Yeah,
Mechanical
basically,
legs
Mr. Right.
defiantly lithe against his bulk as he passed the sword through even more Republic soldiers.
Gamma.
The clone forces and even some of the tanks began to focus their attacks against him, but now that he was in close, among the crowd as it were, they were forced to temper their volleys, unable to simply assail him as they had, without destroying all the men around Sebastian. All the while, the Arch-Imbalancer was being updated as to what would happen next, thanks to the linked mind of his 9th captain. Sebastian's massive body spun and crouched.
Hold on a second, I gotta go save the hospital from the Puglar. Hold on. Gotta save the hospital from the Puglars. 1 second, guys. 1 second. What's going on?
Volcana is having a fit.
Do you want me to let her in?
Yeah.
Alright. She's having an absolute tantrum. Come here. I know why. We got to a certain part of the story. She wants to be there.
Please take her.
I am. Okay. Yes, okay. Okay. You come sit here with me, alright? You come sit here with me. We're gonna watch this. Okay? You're throwing a fit. Throwing an absolute fit. I don't know why you're throwing a fit. Don't know why you're throwing a fit. No. Don't you start it. Look. Look. Say hey to everybody. There we go. All right. We ready? Are you ready? Huh? You ready? Huh? All right. All right. You heard Space Marines are about to destroy something. So there we go. Here we go.
Avoiding 2 whistling blasts from mass driver cannons which slammed into the Basilica walls behind him, reaping the lives of another squadron of Replicae with the same movement. He then leapt forward, running into and not away from the speeding form of a hovering tank, its turret spinning to face him and firing point blank into the Arch-Imbalancer's iron body.
That ain't gonna work.
But Sebastian had grasped the lip of the tank with his offhand, easily lifting the light vehicle up, the shots sailing over him as they were fired, the body of the tank now used as a makeshift shield. Deflectors and hull bursting and buckling as 2 other volleys from laser cannons and missiles collided into it. He then lifted the smoking wreck even higher, composite lasers from gunships high above strafing over it, slicing chunks out of the wreckage before the Dreadnought Lord contemptuously tossed what was left of the war machine aside, flipping it back onto the faces of the clones who had fired missiles at him. The masses of Replicae and Jedi around him were shocked, and in those few bare faces, the old Astartes could see the recognizable signs of transhuman terror blossoming like fell roses across each expression. He knew what
It was only a matter of time.
They must be thinking, what thoughts were sweltering their minds and making so many hesitate. How could anything as large as him move like that?
Yes.
How could a construct of steel and ceramide that stood in excess of 13 feet tall
Yes.
bob and dodge and wield a sword as he was doing? He took a grim satisfaction in that. Yes, let them marvel, let them fear. Let them suffer the glory of the Lord Commander's designs and the wrath of his greater father ever behind them all. He became
Yes.
their will, incarnate in ceramite and iron, rounding on the enemy without ever breaking his stride or showing any mercy. And he was not alone. The gunships of the Republic began to hover over him, crowding him like loitering vultures. The tempered hands did not suffer such things, however, and soon the second volley fell from the air, exploding well above the battle and scattering fist-sized balls of ceramite at sonic speeds. The sudden, sky-filling attack struck the gunships like birdshot fired into a dense pack of Cessian pigeons. The Republic craft jerking, wings breaking, engine shattering, missile stores detonating. They descended, spinning like burning fallen angels, crashing into the soldiers and tanks beneath them. One such gunship twisted in the air, free-falling into the Arch Imbalancer's direction, only to be punched from the sky with his free, mauled fist, smashed into 3 burning pieces as the Dreadnought continued his grisly work and found himself locked in a duel with the Jedi all around him. They were growing accustomed now, and he admired how so many of them shunted off the fear and the chaos all around them, minds honed onto the task of defeating him. Had they been contending with a mere Redemptor, a casual warrior encased in Brutalis armoring and machinery, then they may have succeeded. But as they began to surround him, outmaneuver him, carve into him, they found their burning blades halted and brought up short. Their swift strikes did a fine job of shearing away his ceramite skin wherever they attacked, but failed to bite into the refined adamantium skeleton which hid within. For Sebastian was the venerable first among equals who ruled the Tempered Hands, and his war gear was a reflection of his status.
Oh my God.
His neurons surged with the power of command, scorching him with ecstatic control as he spun, his torso rotating unnaturally to throw them off, and catching 2 with the arc of his blade as he did, crushing a 3rd in his free hand, crumpling the body of the Jedi like a bloody pile of twigs. However, as he ended his spin, he planted his blade into the ground, shield flaring to life and blinding the Jedi Knights and clones who struck at him. One unwise warrior leapt into the field itself, unable to avert his path before it was too late. He fell into the conversion layer of the dual-phase shield, and the effect was blinding and instantaneous. He screamed in desperate pain, body pulled apart as the matter which composed his airborne form was converted into bright, shimmering light. He fell to the ground.
Hey, he joined the light side of the Force. Was that a good one? Was that a good one? Huh? Was it? Yes? No? Volcana. Volcana. Are you fed up with daddy shit? You're fed up with daddy shit.
Only half a man now, ignored by his comrades as the Jedi sought to surround Sebastian anew, waiting for his defense to fall once more. But before it did, something else fell instead. The 3rd volley. A combination of more armor-piercing rockets and promethium-spewing munitions. The former slammed into the legged tanks of the Republic, seeking to mop up those which remained in direct challenge to the Arch Imbalancer, while the latter detonated overhead and rained literal, unquenchable fire upon the army beneath them. Jedi and clones began to scream, began to burn, and then die in mass. Half of them started to attempt a retreat, evidently realizing the trap they had fallen into and the kill zone that was wearing them down moment by moment. But those wiser warriors would find themselves impaired, even entrapped, as they struggled to cross the flaming ring of molten super heavy tanks which encircled the entire battlefield. And aside from that, Sebastian was not done with them yet.
I'll see you in a little while,
not by a long shot. More gunships flew in, attempting to pull their soldiers out or to strafe the Arch Imbalancer as he lifted himself once more. But these Republic vessels were intercepted by vast wings of Thunderhawks and support ships, the very same who would soon be landing all around the Basilica to effect the sorely needed evacuation. Twin-linked heavy bolters, las cannons, and worse were unleashed, ripping through the paltry armor of the Republic air support, downing even more of them as Sebastian resumed his titanic sword dance. It was not long after that when the confused floundering and fighting of the Replicae became an all-out rout. the men either realizing individually or informed through their comms that the battle was a useless one.
Oh my
Even if they
God.
killed Sebastian, this would not end. This would not stop. He was but a fearsome lure, with their true enemies being too far behind to actually reach. But that did not hold back the Dreadnought's vengeful blade, chasing down Jedi and clones, ruining them, cleaving them, tearing the witches and their slaves asunder. More volleys fell, more tanks exploded, more of the Republic died with each successive whirlwind strike.
Good times rhymes with war crimes, gentlemen.
He allowed them no quarter or escape from the quagmire he had created, bounding between groups of fleeing survivors, expending his storm bolters and blackening the blood of countless false men. 5 minutes after the battle had begun, it was over, and the Arch-Imbalancer found himself lulling in the fight, no foes remaining alive and near enough to challenge him. Already the Thunderhawks and transport ships were seeking to land all around the Basilica. Space Marines hopping down from them to start clearing landing zones, and Tech Marines of his chapter approaching from several directions to begin examining the damage, which coated his smoking, glowing carapace. He made to start pursuing what survivors he could still detect, the battlefield around him an absolute ruin of fire, craters, and stacked bodies. But before he could take more than 9 steps, he received a new communication, though this time not from his 9th captain.
This is Sebastian.
Okay.
He droned as he accepted the new Newspheric connection.
Honored Elder, Arch-Imbalancer, this is First Captain Heldris Torv, and I bear grave news. A virus bomb has been deployed within the Basilica, the one housed within the Chapel of Salvation. It is currently descending to the lower levels of the planet.
Came the report, sounding from within his very skull.
Come on, Grandma.
What is the time to detonation?
Was Sebastian's immediate follow-up question.
Under 9 minutes, sir. The soldiers delivering the report claim that the Canoness Superior threw herself after it, and they seem confident that she will stop it somehow. However,
the disembodied voice of the first captain continued to say,
that is not assurance enough.
Right.
Prepare for immediate evacuation. We will be able to withdraw only the first wave.
Yes.
Have them ready, Captain Heldris. We leave as soon as it is possible, and we shall not be able to return.
Oh my God. Oh, you poor woman. Oh, yep, time to dip. Time to get out. It is time to leave. Well, that went exactly like I thought it was. I'm gonna go. Utter beatdown. Here we go.
This was madness.
Hey, baby girl, guess what's about to happen? A shark-faced Inquisitor is about to tear apart a room full of Jedi because we just found out he was an Alpha Plus Psyker. Isn't that something fun? Isn't it fun? Yes. Yes. Tell me more. What do you think is going to happen? Really? Yes.
And with
Oh
a
my
sinking
God.
grimness, the Jedi Master realized that she and her comrades were the only thing that stood against it. Her Jedi blood burned, thousands of years of war echoing inside of her, telling her but one thing. Here had stood Master Zalo. Here had stood Master Farfalla.
It's
here
Morbin
had
time.
stood Master Vodo Siosk Bas. And here, now, stood Master Ayla Sakura. Perhaps not facing down a true Sith, but something that was in many ways even worse. Representing within black, cruel eyes, the very heart of darkness. His power bit into the netherworld itself, his metaphorical teeth sharp enough to make the very Force shudder and withdraw. She herself felt a tremor run through her, panting, sweat slicking her densely
my
as she stood over the
God.
burning body of Jedi Master Hishro Taij. Black flames devouring his flesh, biting through his body, forcing howls of rasping pain from his lips, his eyes looking at her, begging for release. begging for mercy. Yet there was only one mercy Ayla could give him, now that the fire had him, and he knew it too, and begged in agonized, wordless screams for it. His face was aflame, his tongue devoured already, his every breath pulling the dark fires deeper into his body. Ayla felt tears wet her eyes, but her face was hard as she swung down and cut the head off of the master.
Lord Inquisitor, good old Tar, what a scamp. Oh my god.
His decapitation ending the fires almost instantly. Eyes stinging. She looked up and centered her sight on the diabolical force they were attempting to contend with. The Jedi had been throwing themselves at him, trying to win.
Thank you, Mr. Piggy. You said this scene made me realize that Wyler's the biggest troll in the whole damn series. I don't even think. They said, hold the pug close. It's gonna get dark. I got the pug. I got the pug, yes.
Bear Tarweiler down, attacking him with force, saber, and skill in equal measure. But he danced around them, bent time and space with mere flickers of his thoughts. One moment behind them, the next above. He struck with his bare hands, each blow as weighty as a falling star, his black blade no longer required, if it ever had been at all. And
it
yet,
hasn't been.
Those warriors he slapped to pieces were among the luckiest, their ends coming quickly and with far less pain than that of the others. Every technique, every strategy, every lightsaber form, everything the Jedi could use against him spattered against his unnatural agility and ability to warp reality like rain upon a powered deflector shield. And even at the height of their assault, it was evident that Tarweiler was no more than toying with them. He struck right and left. Tarsis Khan crying out as he was slapped across the chest, his voice cut short as his force shield buckled and he was sent spinning, broken into the wall. Wyler kicked right, his foot sinking into the face of Master Jesora Taup like it might have through whipped cream, destroying her mid-strike, his leg...
Okay, so basically, I have said often that Fan has excellent choice in music, but like the choice in music here is absolutely flat out 100%. It just shows that there are good guys and bad guys in here, and the good guys are about to get wiped the absolute fuck out.
Following through to stomp onto the ground, gore spattering from him and leaving him unnaturally clean as his free hand caught the saber and threw it directly at Ayla's chest. She was several meters away at this point, but even then, she barely had the reflexes in her to catch the speeding blade, snatching it out of the air with a spin and grasping it by its handle. The glowing bar of light seared her shoulder, but nothing else, and she harnessed that pain and enacted her retribution. The Jedi Master screamed in rage, her dispassion dispelled, finishing her spin and hurtling the saber back, throwing it like a spinning glaive which sliced the air back in his direction. But as with so much that had already occurred, it was for naught, the Inquisitor rolling his midnight eyes, causing the yellow saber to veer off his path and to the right with a casual ease which could not but invoke despair in her. But the saber was caught again, yanked from the air by Master Quinlan Voss, who spun with it, green blade held in his primary hand as he re-engaged the Inquisitor. Lidless eyes red and fiery with a need for vengeance. Her former master challenged the tall, monstrous man directly, standing before the fell face of the enemy, several more Jedi coming to his aid.
They're screwed.
The Inquisitor bobbed and weaved, his form buzzing, blurring, shifting in the air impossibly as the insane Imperial laughed and laughed. He ducked another of Quinlan's twin strikes, and as he came up again, his hands lit ablaze with that horrific black fire, an arc of it issuing from his fingers and palms, and colliding with the three Jedi who were upon him. Voss drew in his power, almost puppeting his own body with the Force alone as he assumed a Vapad stance and spun his blades, catching the flames and hurtling them around his body with great effort. The other 2 Jedi had no such countermeasures.
Oh,
the waves
God.
of dark flame catching them and burning through them, leaving them screaming and half intact onto the ground. Quinlan stepped over and around them as he continued his contest, speeding his strikes with renewed power. Master Voss was one of the most pragmatic and powerful fighters in the entire Jedi Order. This Ayla knew to be a fact, and yet their enemy made dodging her former master's attacks look trivial, almost effortless, sliding past Voss's green and yellow sabers like oil within water, swimming around a stirring spoon. Voss was reaching speeds and strengths he had never revealed to her before, even wounded as he was. He was doing as she was, she realized, seemingly feeding on his own pain, but it was not enough.
Come now. You must swing faster than that. I am barely moving. Come on, Jedi Knight. Faster. Dance faster.
The creature called Wyler mocked as he weaved around another combination, backhanding Voss in the maneuver's crescendo. The black flames in the monster's palms wet out as he performed the strike, reigniting a moment later. The Jedi's head snapped around, but his force shield held strong against the hammering strike, whirling with the force of it to absorb the damage and coming right back at the enemy. The Inquisitor was making it clear that Quinlan was surviving the bout on nothing more than his humor, for all it took was a single lick of the flames to ensure an inescapable doom for any Jedi they touched. All around the 2 dueling figures were scattered the smoldering, black fire-seared bodies of Ayla's order. Over 100 Jedi at least, while almost 200 more voiced howls and cries of pain, their bodies being consumed by the fires this fell creature had struck them with. The flames appeared to feed on the Force itself, becoming inextinguishable once they caught onto a Force wielder's body, burning until their lives were expended. But once the Jedi died, the fires would falter before vanishing completely. The technique was an atrocious one, giving Ayla the sense that it was not only the bodies of its victims which were burned and consumed by these obsidian flames, but their very presence in the Force as well. Quinlan bellowed, waves of concussive...
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Stop laughing. This is supposed to be bad. This is supposed to be sad. All the Jedi are dying. You okay with that? Are you going to sleep from the sounds of suffering? You are, aren't you? Yes.
Force blasting from him and driving the other Jedi back, though his opponent didn't feel them or react to them at all as bodies and sabers were sent sprawling in all directions. The contending Jedi was reeking with the dark side, his eyes blazing with increasing hatred. Ayla wished she could try to temper him, to pull him back from the shadowy edge he was skirting. But how could she ask him to die in such a horrific way in place of risking falling to the dark side? No, she turned her mind to something more conducive, rescuing him from this suicidal duel before the Inquisitor tired of his own terrible game.
Yeah.
But how? She looked around at the other Jedi nearby, the ones who were not burning, who yet remained to fight. How many of them could she rely on, when so much fear now festered in their eyes? No, she would not allow that to deter her. Instead, she used it to screen them. Who among them had more serenity or fury than fear? They would be her soldiers, the ones to help her rescue her master. But how? How? The idea struck her like a sudden inspiration. Jedi, to me, gather! She called
get
out,
yourself in one
the
spot.
others of her
Be
order
fine.
who could still answer
Be
coming
fine.
to her location right away. Ayla scrutinized them, selecting from those who would suit her purposes before sharing her plan. It was not hard to convince the other Jedi. After all, they had tried everything else already. Plan in place, they broke apart into two teams, either running to the opposite sides and invoking the Force. Ayla jumped from the ground and landed at an unnatural angle upon the wall, beginning to run across the side of the makeshift prison, shifting her inertia by her mastery within the metaphysical. The agile Twi'lek Jedi leapt past the doors and holes which impeded her, as though they were easily avoided pits, gaining speed all the while. To her left and right, other Jedi followed, blades burning, wounds born of their capture and imprisonment bleeding as they sped after her, eyes full of focus, rage, and the will to avenge themselves.
Yes!
She could feel it all within them without looking at those who followed after her. These sensations now very much a part of her plan. Across from her was another squad of Jedi, all doing much as she was on the other wall, converging on the black shape before them, the shadowy Inquisitor still engaged and fighting with her master. Out of all the Jedi who rushed to directly confront Tarweiler, Voss had been the only one to survive in prolonged combat.
Yeah?
It would have been more impressive, yet, once more, the Inquisitor slapped the Jedi Master with the back of his other hand, laughing as Quinlan was staggered, the Jedi stumbling back before rebounding to attack once more. But the Imperial's callous arrogance would prove his ultimate undoing.
Doubt.
She and the other Jedi raced to the flanks of the dueling warriors and leapt. Their minds were joined, the flanking knights all falling in and around the Inquisitor, Voss sliding back in response to Ayla's telepathic warning. A warning she knew he would need, for this was no mere pincer attack.
Right.
The ruthless knights and masters twisted and contorted their bodies as they closed in, thoughts in perfect sync with one another as they all performed mutual states of battle meditation, summoning it forth to whatever degree they could. Knowledge, a Jedi's first and most subtle weapon, wove between them like fine lotus threads.
X to doubt, because I swear to God, they just said knowledge, they have no idea what they're fucking with.
Spinning together to create something far stronger and far more precise. Normally, only 4 or 5, perhaps 6 Jedi, if their size is permitted, could attack a single target with lightsabers at once without getting in each other's way. But now, 27 Jedi shut closed their trap around Tarweiler. Bodies and blades conjoining like puzzle pieces, spinning and lunging into an acrobatic display which formed a near-perfect sphere of bodies around their enemy, all holding sabers, all angled in. The maneuver was perfect, inescapable, and Ayla felt a renewed sense of vicious vigor spill into her as she saw their attacks land home. 31 lightsaber blades pierced Tarweiler from every direction, his body suddenly riddled with bars of burning light. His mind had reached out in the last moments, expelling power to repel them. But like a tightly woven net, the conjoined Jedi had pulled upon each other as they attacked and overcame the exhalation of strength the Inquisitor had attempted to shield himself with. His face was still trapped in a grin, but he was not laughing anymore, and the smile was a hollow thing. But then, the laugh resumed, yet not from the man before her. The man caught between them seemed to waver, and then faded from existence, his empty smile vanishing to reveal something which stole Ayla's breath away. She was stabbing into the Jedi across from her. In fact, most of them had impaled each other, skewering their fellow members in a crossfire she had been sure they had been careful to avoid. In panic, the Master Jedi tried to pull away, several others mimicking her, drawing their sabers out of their comrades, and sometimes pulling themselves off of the burning blades that they themselves had been struck with. Most collapsed in a pile where their enemy should have been, while others lasted longer, bearing the woundings long enough to step away before falling to their knees and curling over. Those spared the touch of a lightsaber numbered only 5, Ayla Secura among them. She felt her strength collapsing out of her, the air in her lungs stolen as she saw the body of the other Jedi she had impaled, likely onto dying. How did you? She began to gasp, her
parry this, you filthy casual.
Her head turning almost limply to follow the incessant laughter. The Inquisitor was smugly leaning on a rail near to the stairs, eyeing them all with deep amusement, hands wreathed in black flames.
How? Oh dear. Don't you realize it yet? I knew what you would do because you told me about it.
The Imperial said, his voice thick with superiority. The Jedi Master had no idea what he meant by that.
He was reading your mind.
With a suddenness which threatened to throw her off her feet, she realized that her combat meditation was still linked to the mind of one other Jedi who had not lost their focus. No, not a Jedi at all. Tar Weiler's shark-toothed smile grew wider as he saw the epiphany strike her. The knowledge that he had infiltrated their combat trance from the get-go, slicing into her like a cruel carver's knife.
Oh,
"You're never
my God.
even there," she whispered.
Oh, no. What I did was more than a mere illusion. You fools do not even realize it yet, but I have been in your minds from the start of this pathetic little contest. Your barriers are so weak. I don't even need to break them for me to subvert your very thoughts. I can just slide inside like water seeping through cracks. You, your master Quinlan Voss, all of your dead and dying Jedi friends.
The Inquisitor gloated as he pushed off the railing and began to stalk forward.
Now, the game has grown tiresome. It is time, I think, to pack you up. Kneel.
Mr. Pika says, like I said, Tarwal is the biggest troll in this series. Him leaning there, that smug on his face the moment he became one of your favorites. He's been one of my favorites for a little bit because he's a creepy bastard. But holy God, he's just killed hundreds of Jedi. Hundreds of them. How many Jedi have died here?
I'll make this part painless if you do not resist.
He purred past the dagger-like teeth which filled his grinning mouth. Quinlan Voss trembled from head to toe, but his face showed no fear as he spat and lifted his blade, sword humming hungrily in the air. "You will not take her, or any of us. I do not know why you came, or
Press
how you
X to
gained
doubt.
this power, but I will stop you," he declared, charging back in, blades spinning in a frenzy of
There's
flashing
only 5
movements.
left out of 300.
That's the spirit.
The Inquisitor mocked as he rushed in to meet Quinlan, moving in like a phantom, ducking around and
Lord Inquisitor says this moment's like these to make the job worth it.
avoiding the blades which chased him. Voss worked through another 6 strikes, but he could not even scorch Weiler's robe. Another strike, then an 8th, before Tar halted the knife.
God.
The green blade swinging down to chop into his shoulder and through his torso, paused by an upraised, clawed hand, the space around it warped and distorted with purple and black coloration.
Still so slow. Still so weak.
The Inquisitor snarled as Voss pushed down with all his might.
Are you really this pathetic?
Damn!
Did you simply not want it enough?
Tarweiler scolded, pulsing the power in his hand and sending Voss skidding back a few feet.
Let me reveal to you then some of the reason behind the madness you think you are fighting.
The Inquisitor gloated, following after the Jedi he had pushed away, hands blazing black, whips of unnatural fire curling out from him and slapping across the ground. He raised his arms, lashing at Quinlan, who was forced once more to fall into painful vapad just to stand a chance. He deflected one whip, and then the other, rolling back from the strokes as the tongues of flames twisted around his blades, nearly licking him across the face and chest.
Okay, 1 second. I gotta go put her up because she's getting really hot in my arms here, and I'm already hot as it is. Oh no, my baldness has been revealed to the Western world. How will I ever cope? And seethe. 1 second. Oh my God. Alright, baby girl. It's time for you to go sit down. You're gonna go in there with Mama and you're gonna be a warpug, okay? Now you've gotten a lot of love. You can't be mad when the other puppies are getting attention, okay? Look at this face. Look at this face. Look at this face. Okay. Okay, I get it. Yep. It's time. It's time. There we go.
You done?
She enjoyed watching the slaughter.
Are you done?
No. She had a lot of fun watching the slaughter, though. Okay. So nearly 300 Jedi here. Nearly 300 Jedi just by Tarwala alone. We have an untold amount of Jedi that died during the main battle proper. Saffron killed a few. He didn't kill many. He did injure and incapacitate a good amount. He was fighting about 80 at one point, I think. We don't know how many survived that second wave. So at the very least, in this single battle, 500 Jedi, at the absolute least, absolute pure minimum, 500 Jedi are dead. At least 500. And probably double that injured. Good God. All right. 2,500 Jedi came to Axum. Nearly 1,000 Jedi are dead. You don't even think Creamy She's going to have to use Order 66? I don't think so either. I think he's going to have to use them, to be honest with you. Yeah, Tarwala, have I ever told you what the definition of insanity is? Pretty much. Howie, Windu fell. And this is something I've been talking about for quite some time. The level of violence and brutality in the places that the Jedi would have to go to actually combat the Imperium on their own footing is horrific. So most definitely, a lot of Jedi have turned to the dark side. I'm saying most definitely. Here we go. So, you say at least 1,000 Jedi. I'm saying bare minimum 500 are dead. Twice that wounded. And out of those wounded, we have no idea how many are just like, will never be able to even do anything again.
Both sabers now held within these coils of unreal, void-like power. He was pulled taut and reeled in, closer and closer despite his resistance, attempting to keep his distance.
There will be no victory here on this foul little planet. Every Imperial soldier will die. Every space marine sent down to its wretched surface will die. Every hero under the Empire who remains will die,
said the insane man, pulling Voss closer and closer. The Jedi grit his teeth at the words, an eternal glare dark over his every feature. That cannot be true. You are an Imperial. Why would you do that to your own people? The Jedi growled as he was brought almost right into the Inquisitor's face, his arms pulled out to either side.
Fool! Can you really not fathom the reason? Even now?
Tarweiler mocked.
We are the Imperium of Man. We do not lack for soldiers, space marines, or heroes. They are created and spent every day, all for the greater victory. When the others hear about what occurred, when they see those blood-red names listed as the Fallen, they will blame the Republic. Those who seek isolation and peace will be silenced, forced to capitulate to a greater conflict. A conflict which shall deliver unto us this entire galaxy and the strength we need for true unity. And besides, the loss to us will be painful, but insubstantial. Can you say the same?
He hissed, his breath the scent of burning corpses rolling over Quinlan's bloody face.
What are you talking about?
The Jedi Master grunted and groaned, trying to pull in his arms, trying to get his sabers free of the flames which held him spread.
Do you really think I do not intend to take my toll from your republic as well? You are fools, all of you. You have gathered all of your psycho witches into one place. All of your heroes, all of your best.
Oh.
We will bleed from the loss, but you will die from it. Your republic will leave this battle with nothing. No Jedi, no replicate, none save those who could not be fielded. I will cleave your order onto death in the same blow that I stir my Imperium into righteous war.
Yes.
The galaxy will burn. The Republic's body will be the kindling. The Jedi, the first to scream in the flames.
The towering, dark Imperial crooned and raved.
With the same blow that will begin this war in earnest, I shall end it as well. A downward slope from which your weak government shall never recover. You and your dear blue pet and all those who survive my games here shall be the last of the Jedi. Your order will scream here, but it will die in the darkness of my cells, my labs, and my prison. I will pull you each apart, make you my own, and those who will not change, I shall discard as mere research material.
Oh
Now,
my
realization
God.
of the true madness they faced struck the Jedi who remained, Voss and Ayla most of all.
Bitch, you better run.
You're completely insane!
Yes, he is.
Quinlan spat.
Does the fact that he was sharpening his teeth not tell you something about this already? He said the line.
As the Inquisitor began to laugh again.
My insanity, as you call it, shall rule this universe. So I ask you again, Jedi Knight of the Feeble Republic, is this all you have? Is this the extent of the witch generals so vaunted, so feared, so disappointing? You have only one chance. Defeat me here, or watch your entire world, your whole universe, cease to exist.
Tarweiler prodded and hissed.
If those are my only choices, then I will defeat you!
Voss roared before snapping his head forward, headbutting Tarweiler on the bridge of...
As insane... Okay, so real quick before this kicks off. He's not wrong, even though they're in a universe as heavily populated as the Star Wars universe. They are not wrong. Okay? The level of brutality, okay, so right now he's about to wipe out the entire planet. The Empire did this, and the Empire itself did this. And while there was a rebellion, it wasn't like it. The rebellion that the Empire faced would get crushed. His tactic here would work. His tactic here would work. And that is absolutely the sickest part of this, is this would actually work. A lot of the Republic would be too scared to fight. Too scared to fight back after reports of this go out. Because while this is normal, par for the course for 40K, this is absolutely horrifying compared, like for the entire Star Wars galaxy. This would be at a level of horrifying that defies comprehension. The sheer brutality of this battle. This battle has just massacred the Jedi. It has made several prominent Jedi Knights and Jedi Council members begin to turn to the dark side. That's how brutal this is. That's how brutal this is. It would just... Yeah, this is going to be horrific.
Of his nose. It was like slamming his head into...
Oh, I know, Cheese. It's like... I know it's like that, but at the same time, the galaxy has been in the long peace for so long.
To a steel wedge. But the Inquisitor recoiled, stunning him long enough for Voss to release his apprehended yellow lightsaber. Grasping his green blade in both hands and spinning into the sudden slack of the flame whip which held it, seeking to cleave the man in half with a strike. Tarweiler bent backwards in a way a body should not have been able to, the burning blade passing over him as he slid beneath. He came back around, the flame whip pulling the yellow lightsaber into his hand and using it to block the next strike Quinlan followed up with. Sparks flying as the bars of light struck each other and locked, both faces near behind them.
Better, Jedi! Better! But you will need more than that!
The Inquisitor admonished before releasing a growl of his own, pushing Quinlan away with a thrust of his own kidnapped blade, the two beginning a mortal exchange, darkness writhing in their shadows as their sabers collided again and again.
Yeah, Alistair, this single battle has been going on for that long. Oh God, this is so... I'm so ready to hear about the wider galaxy, its reaction to this. Because while some people are going to want to fight, a lot of people are going to be in abject terror, especially when they find out just how bad it has been, what has happened to the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Because the Confederacy of Independent Systems has been, for the most part, absolutely annihilated. And then you have Grievous and all this other... Oh, it's just bad.
Ayla wished she had that kind of strength, but alas, there was no hope left in her now. What ploy could she devise?
Comrade Dog.
What plan? What power? What tactic could she resort to when he could access her thoughts so easily and bend reality so readily?
Run!
She was reminded of her first battle with General Grievous and of her own fall to the dark side. She was reminded of how easily he had defeated her earlier that same day, so many hours ago. And in that moment, for the first time in a long time, she felt her faith in the Order shaken to its very core. Were they wrong? Was the Jedi Order wrong all of this time? Had they really fallen to such depths of weakness that they could do nothing against these monsters that continued to assail them? How was it possible that after all of this time, after all of her sacrifices, all of her trials, she was still so far behind? The face of Kit Fisto flashed through her mind, his bright smile, his comforting presence, his love. She and he had forsaken it, discarded those precious seeds of attachment to dedicate themselves further to the Jedi Order, the same order that had led them here, into this war, into this fight she could not win. How could Master Yoda have claimed what he claimed? Told her that the light could always vanquish darkness, as her mentor, her friend, her brother, fought with all he had, only to be slowly pushed back and crushed down. Voss and Weiler clashed repeatedly, again and again, blades of gold and green bleeding sparks with each touch, their speeds accelerating, and yet the distance between them never seeming to shrink for more than an instant.
Oh my God.
Moment by moment, Quinlan was growing stronger, but somehow, paradoxically, still losing ground.
This is just terrible.
Every time he seemed to gain an advantage, reality would warp, and the Inquisitor would escape and counter with even more ferocity. With startling clarity, Ayla realized that she was going to watch him die. or that he would watch her die, or that they would both watch each other be dissected and pulled apart by this monster if he chose to take them alive. For he was the only one with any choice here, and she, as well as the defeated Jedi around her, dead or alive, were not able to impede his will beyond what he humored. Something deep within Ayla was crushed in that moment, and she knew it, and did not know if she would ever be able to heal it, or if she ever would desire to. Finally, the bout between the two furious Force wielders was ended, Tarweiler kicking Voss in the chest, and as the Jedi's arms flew out to either side, the Inquisitor swept down his stolen saber and cleaved through the wrist of his right hand. Ah! The Jedi cried out in pain before suddenly being lifted from the ground before he could fall, held within a tight, invisible grip. Tar lifted his own free hand, discarding the yellow saber with the other, his left hand curled and raising the constrained Jedi, being brought higher and higher into the air as he did. The crackle and pop of joints and bones being strained to their limit could be heard. Voss's arms spread to either side, his body pulled taut in every direction.
This is the end now. I have a ship to catch after all, and I still need to pack you all up. So let's see if we can't make you carry-sized.
The cruel creature crooned as he stepped forward, the fingers of his left hand closing a bit more, forcing a dire scream from Voss as he was stretched even more. "Let him go!" Ayla cried out, dropping her saber from her hand and opening her palms, issuing forth a thoughtless, emotional rush of power towards the two and throwing them both back. Tarweiler collided with one wall, while Quinlan Voss struck the other, the latter falling unconscious and sliding down, slumping there, while the former merely hissed and grunted as he was pinned against the steel at his back. Ayla held her arms out, eyes blazing, tears streaming down her face as she stepped closer and closer, with more and more force every second that passed. "You will take no one! You will take nothing! No more!"
I think you're wrong. I just got an inkling you're wrong, girl. I'm just saying.
Spat at him. The tall, lanky body of the Inquisitor pressed flat against the makeshift prison's
Guys, let's give Quinlan Voss a hand, man. He did good. Damn.
Boundary like an insect pinned inside of a display case. He tilted his head back down to glare at her, eyes pitch black and glossy, sharpened teeth grit in a frustrated grimace. His right hand began to pry off from the wall, and then his left, before Ayla released a pained shout and shoved him back against the steel. "I said no more! I will stop you! I have to stop you!"
No, you won't.
She exclaimed, veins defined against her blue skin as she exerted herself like never before. Yet her surge of strength was only able to hold him down for so long, as she felt his own power rising to meet her, like a boiling pot held under pressure, swelling his own repulsive strength under the press of her power, gradually prying himself off from the wall and landing on his feet again, his hands out and now pushing against her own. Ayla squinted her eyes as she tried to force him back, but the Inquisitor held his ground, robes billowing and tossing.
Impressive, Xenos,
the Imperial said through his grit teeth.
But not impressive enough!
He roared, opening his palms fully and thrusting his hands out wide. In response, his power exploded outward, and Ayla found herself thrown back, falling and rolling head over heels, regaining her stability as she kneeled against the maelstrom of his power. Blood streamed from her nose, senses entirely overwhelmed. The Inquisitor straightened, smoothing his robes with his hand, a slight glisten of sweat sheening his smooth bald face and head. He then looked up at her and smiled his demon smile.
A valiant effort. Let us see if we cannot replicate that in a lab setting.
He began to say before pausing, his expression melting into one of annoyance as he turned around to face away from her. Ayla did not hear it at first, nor could she sense it, but soon the sound became loud enough for her to make it out. A steady, frantic clinking and clanking noise coming from up the stairs. The Inquisitor paused his approach, and he, as well as Ayla and the rest who remained conscious, turned their eyes upwards towards the bulky, shambling form of the tech priest known as Omni Kraden.
What is it?
Demanded Tarweiler, voice tinged with irritability.
We are
Surrounded.
Droned the odd Magos.
The Replicate are all around the area. Flying vessels have encircled us.
The tech priest reported.
They are no matter. I will flay their minds and the very skin from their bodies as soon as I am finished here.
Pronounced the Inquisitor. But the Magos was shaking his head before the man had even finished.
Commissar Shadrick has reported
that he is nearing completion
of the activation of the bomb at the Basilica of
Salvation.
And, more immediately alarmingly, the Republic escorted something here.
An invader of some sort.
It's already inside the building.
The countermeasures I installed
cannot even slow it down.
Inquisitor,
we need to use the
machine man continued before suddenly.
Is it time for creamy sheev?
Losing his breath, or what he used in place of it, and rising up from the ground, metal legs kicking and scraping.
Kraden! Kraden, what is happening to you?
The Inquisitor shouted, stepping back and away from the now floating machine man, his black eyes slowly widening as his senses came awake to what his own power had been hiding from him. Slipping from the shadow of Tarweiler's arrogance, stepping down the stairs, one leisurely placed foot at a time, was another figure. Not as tall, and not as overtly monstrous as the Inquisitor, but black-robed and cloaked in a power which radiated out. Ayla saw her own breath fog in the air, suddenly cold in the presence of this new darkness.
Yes!
And as she watched the new figure descend, she knew without having to ask what it was. Omni Kraden choked and wheezed in mechanical fashion, struggling in the invisible grip that held him.
So just some guy says the creamy sheev rises to the top. Yes, here comes the Senate.
Clutching at the metallic piping that held up his throat. The robed figure held its hand out in a casual gesture, as though pinching a flea between its thin fingers, before just as casually rolling its wrist, throwing the Magos into the wall with enough force to break panels loose. Tar watched it all with grit teeth, his brow creasing as all humor left him.
That!
The Inquisitor hissed, his black rapier skidding from the ground and spinning into his hand.
Was a mistake. That tech priest belonged to me and my war master.
Pronounced Tarweiler, but this new figure in black only chuckled within the dark confines of his hood and shook his head.
Oh no, my ambitious rival.
Heard the voice of an elderly man.
You will find that it is you who are mistaken.
He continued, a pair of gold-plated handles sliding into either hand, shooting out from his long robe sleeves and into his waiting palms.
About a great many things.
Pronounced the Dark Lord of the Sith. The handles ignited, extending out two glowing crimson blades of light. And darkness met darkness, ending Ayla's desperate fight.
You will find that you are mistaken. Yes. Oh! Oh! Are you kidding me? Oh, that's That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Yes. Yes.
The wind was a lash against her.
Okay, it's most definitely got to be. It's most definitely got to be Legends Palpatine. It cannot be. It cannot be Disney Palpatine, because if that's Disney Palpatine, Tar Waller's gonna chew him up and spit him out. But if it's Legends Palpatine, we got to fight. We have got a fight.
Her aching skin, buffeting her and tossing her vestments and bandages about wildly. She kept her profile small, as slim as possible, and below she could see the shadowy shape of the virus bomb, falling more slowly than herself, yet still speeding for the ground. The borehole both Imperial weapons fell down through had been drilled past countless existing layers, some of them dark, some of them burgeoning with light. Those bands of light strafed them both, at times blinding Ishtara by their rapid arrival and passing. In one hand, she clutched her flamer pistol between broken fingers. Her other hand extended out, reaching for the tail of the world-ending bomb.
Come on, Grandma.
Her daughters, Saint Lazarus, her sisterhood, and all of those who depended upon them were constant thoughts in her mind.
Daniel Morgan says, when I first saw that part, I couldn't stop grinning and cackling with evil laughter. Yes.
Battling the agony of her ancient body. Suffering was her prayer, and her prayers were now stronger than ever.
1 second. All right, I let her know. I let her know.
Fingers grasping the air, scraping the metal of the bomb for several seconds before she attained a grip and pulled herself closer. There were handholds, railings made to help scale and maintenance the weapon, which she now made use of, hooking bruised toes over them once she had dragged herself one-handed up one side of the tool of Exterminatus. She needed to reach the canisters and burn them out, carefully, one at a time, to even have a chance of stopping this, but her going was slow, if frantic. The bomb's descent was also less than controlled, scraping and bumping occasionally against the sides of the tunnel they fell down, each contact risking the fracturing of the viral vials that held the virus. If even one shattered before she could neutralize it, then her whole basilica was dead, if nothing else. But she kept the faith, as she always had, and continued to climb. Darkness and light moved past her in rapid succession, pain bleeding into every inch of her. Her movements, such a struggle that she began to lose track of time, lose track of even her own body. Ishtara was dizzy, sick with weakness, and yet still she crawled, using her free elbow to leverage herself, single hand grasping further and further. She clung to the weapon, crying out in pain as it skidded against the wall again, rattling her bones, breaking a few. But where her mind and body...
Spadeful Blackman says, she better be careful, he's used to fighting Jedi. Yes, she toys with Jedi, he doesn't fight them.
Body sought to surrender, her spirit refused to bow. I will never submit.
Thank you, Space Wolf.
Not even in the face of death. She
go,
gasped,
Granny, go.
Reminding the other two weaker parts of herself that failure was not an option. Retreat was not possible. And then, suddenly, there was no more railing. She opened reddened, teary eyes, weeping the wind from her sockets as the venerable mistress of the brides of the Emperor found herself at the lip to the opening in the bomb, the bright green canisters before her swirling their nefarious contents, not a single one broken.
I think they wanted you here to be in the chat because watching this because
they told me you needed the stick.
That's Hobbit, and Hobbit's a heretic today. No. No.
Just one?
Huh?
Just one?
Fine.
Okay.
If you break this, guess who's buying me another one?
It's all your money.
I know it's all my money, but guess what you're doing for it?
Yet, she hauled her weapon.
Huh?
I'm gonna shove this stick up your ass is what I'm gonna do.
I will build a trebuchet and launch your ass to Istanbul, then slap your ass all the way back saying it's Constantinople. Bye.
Bye.
Weapon-bearing arm over and onto the seam, flamer sparking, ready to fire even now within this hurricane of falling wind. Now was the time. She would not allow the faith to fall. She would not allow so many faithful to die. Or so she thought.
Come on, Granny.
Before the bomb scraped the side of the wall again, this time much closer to her. She screamed, Ishtara's lungs emptying themselves in raw agony as the bomb bumped the side of the tunnel again and pinched off her weapon-bearing arm, crushing half her body with it. The flamer flew away into the tunnel, along with the limb holding it, and Ishtara only stayed in place because of her other arm and the leg on the same side still hooked and anchored around the railing beneath her. The Canoness Superior tried to breathe, but blood slicked her lips, whipped away quickly by the wind, and streaking her face with red. One of her lungs was entirely smashed and punctured, and the other could barely draw any breath at all. The world began to fade.
Come on,
the
Grandma,
chill
no.
wind around her whistling, carrying away the last bits of heat that composed her life. Was this possible? She wondered as darkness encroached from all sides. Had she finally failed in this, her final task?
No,
With
she
a
hasn't.
deep and painful resignation, she was forced to admit that she had. Her body could take her no further. Her weapons were no longer with her. Her spirit was bleeding out of her, even now, and the floor was rushing up to meet the bomb and end the world.
No.
She had failed entirely, and so she did the only thing that she could do now. She put it all into the Emperor's hands.
Yes.
Her final task, unable to be completed by herself in any true capacity. And with the last breaths in her body, Ishtara Ordain prayed. Oh, Emperor, I pray, hear me now, your loyal servant, in this, my final hour. All of my life I have sought to serve you, to carry out your will. Now I ask, if I truly have earned your favor for one last blessing.
Yes.
The Canoness gasped, her words caught by the wind, but heard nonetheless. Since the moment I understood your glory, I have wanted nothing more than to be a blade, a sword wielded by your almighty hand. I would have been happy to have been born as a divine storm, or a holy bolter, a mighty conflagration, or even a terrible hurricane, a sanctified force of nature without a heart or pity, able to perform your will and nothing more. She called out, blood thick upon her lips, yet not intruding upon her final request. Her eyes blazed with gold, her struggling heart ceased to pump, and yet still her blood flowed. The shadow of a mighty hand fell over her soul, closing around it like the handle of a weapon, and squeezing tightly, holding it in place. Fire bled from her nostrils, blackening her blood and skin. Flames wept from her eyes, scorching her face. But suffering was her prayer.
Yes.
And all of it was expressed through her words. So I pray, in this final moment, make of me a storm of fire. Make of me an instrument of your purest will.
Oh my God.
Turn my faith to wrath.
Excellent chat for Grandma.
My wrath to service.
and make my service true. If it is your will that we all die here, then let me be the first. If it is your will that we survive, then take my life and spare the others. So plead I, Ishtara Ordain, first among your brides in waiting.
Her clothes caught fire, the torn stump of her arm now seeming to leak promethium in place of blood. Her tongue became a tongue of flame, her words echoing with a strength that was not her own. Her remaining hand began to melt into the surface of the bomb, the vials cracking in the growing heat.
So pray I, servant of the throne, in the Emperor's name.
And with those final words, a great blaze began, consuming Ishtara's mortal flesh and expanding out. The virus bomb struck the ground, its lethal payload released, but as soon as it tasted freedom, it was also consumed in fire.
Oh my God!
The blaze spread like a living explosion, consuming every molecule of the Death Eater virus and far, far more. By faith and by fury, the Emperor's hand descended over Axum, and with a single golden thumb of fire, smothered the death of the world like a man might crush an ant. So ended the mortal life of Ishtara Ordain, Queen of Warriors, servant of the Golden Throne, and bride of the Emperor.
This is to end in fire.
I'm letting this play.
Burn together. Watch the flames climb high into the night. Calling out, Father.
GG for Granny. GG for Granny in chat, guys. Holy shit.
The mountainside.
GG in chat for Granny.
If we should die tonight, then we should all die together. Raise a glass of wine for the last time. Calling out for the rope. Prepare as we will watch the flames burn on and on the mountainside. Desolation comes upon the sky.
Oh my God.
Now I see fire inside
That
the
is
mountain.
awesome.
I see fire
I'm just letting the song play.
burning the trees.
I cannot.
Songs I see fire.
I know, Boyd. I know.
And I hope that you'll remember me.
Oh my God. Okay. Guys, only in death does duty end. Only in death does duty end. This episode was everything I wanted to see. Everything I wanted to see. Axum, the battle for Axum is coming to a close. As far as from what I'm seeing, the battle for Axum is coming to a close. The first wave of Jedi and the clone troopers has been utterly decimated, just completely and totally decimated. The second wave, we don't know how effective the Space Marine ambush was on them, but we can take some educated guesses, just based off the way the battle went. The Jedi were slaughtered. The Jedi and the clone troopers were absolutely slaughtered in the field. Do I think Yoda felt that? I think Yoda's been feeling this entire battle, because this has been an absolute absolute beasting. This has been utterly horrifying. And here's the thing. I really am looking forward to seeing what happens in the aftermath of this battle. Because now, I mean, the Republic does not have anything that can stand against it doesn't have anything that can stand against the Space Marines right now. Not on planet. The fleet battle I think is going to be going the Imperium's way. This battle is coming to a close. And the Jedi have taken an absolutely catastrophic loss. No matter how this battle ends, and I seriously think it's not going to end in the favor of the Jedi. I don't think it's going to be that way at all. No matter if the Jedi have taken a huge loss here, the only time that more Jedi have died is during Order 66. I mean, that was the only time they more than died. They took more losses here than the entirety of the Clone Wars, it seems. And they were already depleted from fighting the Clone Wars. So the Republic is going to have to. Here's the thing. This battle has been going on an absolute, outright 100% maximum, just based off the way that things have been going. This battle's been going on an absolute maximum of about a week. Even if the Jedi survive, they are severely crippled. Yeah, this has been an absolute bloodbath. Mace Windu looks to be falling to the dark side. I would be shocked if at least I would be surprised if less than about 20% of the Jedi that fought in this battle overall don't turn. Battle has been 2 days. It actually makes sense. I was going off there are times I do my absolute most pessimistic estimates, and this was my most pessimistic estimate. It's been going on a week. The Jedi Order is likely going to split apart from civil strife and mental problems after this battle, which over a day they're not. No, Thors. There's one of two ways that this battle is going to be interpreted, and it depends on how it ends. Now, the first way that this actually goes, the first way, you gotta remember, we saw an event that happened after this battle in some of those past episodes. I don't know yet. Creamy Sheep going to suffering for his success. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of Dark Jedi after this. Now, the first way is the way I think that's most, just based off what is in the description now. Just based off what's in the description right now, I think that the only way to really do this is to galvanize the people against the Imperium. And that means they're going to have to hide a lot of the things that happen on this planet. They're going to have to hide exactly how many Jedi died. That is a given fact. That is an absolute 100% given fact. They're going to have to hide how many Jedi died here. Sheer fact of the matter is, it's just absolutely just the sheer amount of Jedi that died on this planet is crazy. And the Republic is going to know them flat out. Mitra Surik is crying in the background of the forest, realizing what happened in the Mandalorian Wars is now worse than ever before. True. Creamy Sheep after this war. Well, there's the consequences of my own action. No kidding. Some of the past episodes take place after the Battle of Axiom. I didn't know that. Ayla Voss, the others, their faith in the Order is broken. Voss is dead. Voss is absolutely dead. Ayla is going to turn. She's lost all faith in the Jedi Order at this point because she's like at the very least, Palpatine is going to match up with Tarweiler. He's going to be close in range to Tarweiler. I don't see him outright dominating Tarweiler, but I see him standing up to him, which is far more than the 250 to 300 Jedi just did. Because they just got pounded into nothing, okay? That's what happened to the Jedi just now. They got pounded into absolutely nothing there. Daniel Morgan, thanks. I don't know if you know this, but fans confirmed there's one living orc in the Star Wars galaxy, so everyone's screwed. Very, very true. Everything's screwed. I do see Palpatine escaping. I do see him taking Alia with him, but guys, this is going to be on the future of the Tempered Hams chapter. I couldn't say, Maxim. I really, really couldn't say. It's going to be a matter of how long it'll take the Republic to mobilize into a war economy. Old Republic times, every single occasion the Sith Empire rose up and the Republic wakes up, it's GG. This is true. That's why I was saying there's two ways that this could go. And judging by the way the description was written, I'm not seeing the second way happen at all. The second way happening is they are dumb enough to tell everybody what happened here. They are dumb enough to tell everybody that in their first ground engagement, they lost more clone troopers than they did the rest of the Clone Wars, and a fraction of the Jedi Order was just completely wiped out. What do you think would happen to Ahsoka? Ahsoka's the only one right now that I have any hope for of trying to do anything. Anthony says, one thing I realize is Palp recognizes Tar as his rival. He ignored the other fleets of the Imperium. Does this mean Tar is the strongest cycle or his closest rival? Probably Palpatine realizes this guy in front of him now is... Palpatine's no idiot. Palpatine is no idiot. He believes in... You see, that's the thing. People have been saying, oh, well, Palpatine doesn't know what he's messing with in Tar. No, actually, I absolutely 100% realize. I 100% realize that he realizes what he's walking into. You don't get to the position that Creamy Sheev is without. Do you think the CIS and some offshoot will exist? And how would the Crimson Razors have decimated the Confederacy of Independent Systems? They've decimated it. In the last few days, they have absolutely decimated it. I think Palpatine just recognizes a scheming son of a bitch in Weiler. This is true. Palpatine is cocky, but not dumb. This is very true. Palpatine wiped out the Jedi Order while he was sitting directly under, within range of them, okay? Rubik's Raptor did another, perhaps the final bio trauma video. Yeah, I know. I'm going to have to check that out. Palpatine probably doesn't either know about or want to challenge the other librarians together. The one thing about Palpatine that you do need to understand is he is extremely good at The Jedi have been in a position of power for a very long time. The Sith have not. So Palpatine's not going to screw up everything by making a stupid decision. Grievous is going to decimate the Crimson Razors in turns. I have no idea if he's going to do that or not, to be honest with you. He is the raid boss, though. If Ahsoka can convince the Admech to calm down, could the Admech drive enough of a wedge to the Imperials to consider peace? Hell no. That's not going to happen. How will Tarkin and Admiral Thrawn try to handle the fallout of this battle's losses? Tarkin and the huge amount of budget's just gone. Oh, God, dude. That is a really, really difficult prospect to think about, dude. I don't even know. The Republic has lost a ton of ships, a massive amount of clones, and the sheer amount of Jedi commanders and generals that are dead is... Or she's simply going to be so injured after this. It's just crazy. You're excited to see if Palpatine learns? Yeah, learns about how that. Which Chaos God will Palps devote to is the question. Zinch, yes. What's going to happen when the Sisters of Silence encounter Palpatine or etc.? Palpatine is extremely strong. Extremely strong. And he knows how to use what he has. He'll probably have something in mind for them. He'll probably have something in mind for them. Yeah, I know. You're still hoping your brothers in the Order Malleus Militant Branch show up? True. Tarkin's doctrine won't work against the Imperium. It was already impractical in the Galactic Civil War. Guys, and the Skywatch are currently on their way to Coruscant. Jesus Christ. This has been a beating. Either Republic gets galvanized, or the news of this is going to make them completely fall apart. Could General Grievous become to the only semblance of a competent version of the CIS? Yes. How well does Star Wars alien technology and weapons to be helpful for the Republic against the Imperium? Not really. The Republic could collapse economically. No, the Republic could collapse societally. But, like I said, I highly doubt that the Republic is going to actually tell the fucking truth about what happened during this battle. Because if they did, it would legitimately terrify the Republic at large. It would terrify them. Because this war that has been going on between them and the Separatists, the droid armies, has been bad enough. And then you go, hey, one battle, we saw this much damage. What if the Jedi say fuck it and break out the Aboleth? Then they say fuck it and break out the Aboleth and everybody's screwed. Alright, guys. Yeah, they cover all this up with propaganda. That's what I was thinking, Robert. That's what I was thinking. But it's gonna depend on how it's addressed, really. And so far, every single time that fan has made a decision in this, it has been like, sometimes I don't agree with certain decisions that are made just based on the fact that I know the character wouldn't act that way or something like that. It hasn't been that way here. It has not been that way in this series, and I absolutely love that. So I can't wait to see how fan spins this, because the only way the Republic does not just devolve into an absolute fucking panic over what happened here is if everyone lies about it. That's the only way this works. Guys, I'm going to head out. I'm going to wrap up the stream. I will catch you guys next time. Thank you for joining me. I hope you guys had fun. I know I did. GG in chat for Grandma, because holy God, Grandma was a beast. Ishtara was an absolute beast. Yep. Absolute beast. I don't think that Tar's going to be outmatched. I just think that Creamy Sheev's going to be better at using what he has than Tar. Because Creamy Sheev is used to hiding his ability and outthinking his opponents. Tar Weiler is used to the same thing. Neither one of them has fought somebody absolutely at their level. In any case, guys, I'll catch you guys next time. Have a good night. And thank you for joining me. Creamy Sheev is about to meet Tartar Weiler.